So let's start adding our first breakdown. So I added a key here. We've got our pose right there, and we're going down into here. Now, my first thought whenever I'm approaching breakdowns is when I look between two keys, so in this case, we're coming down here, does this motion make sense? Does this motion from here to here, does it feel like it's missing anything? So, for example, as I'm looking at this, I see that the knee is coming up, elbows are coming down, head is going down, and overall it's not bad. This is a pretty quick motion and this reads fairly well, but I feel like I'm missing something. What hits first? Does his chest hit first? So does he kind of come down, his chest stops and then his arms come down? Or as he's coming down, do his elbows come down and then his chest comes in? What's happening here? I'm not sure. And this is my first idea that I should probably add a breakdown in here. Now we're going to get into that a lot more the more we go. So for example, between this pose and this pose, how does he get up? How does his leg go back? What leads? What follows? I don't know. Just looking at the animation here, nothing's telling me anything. So that's kind of my first indication that, yeah, I need some breakdowns here. I need to describe my action, because if I can't tell what's happening, Maya sure as heck won't. It's just gonna just do whatever it can. So I'm gonna start by breaking down this pose here. And this is where you can look at your reference. If you're learning, I especially recommend this just because it's going to teach you how things lead, how things follow. We are following our reference, we are not copying the reference, and we're going to try to exaggerate things quite a bit here. The other thing you can do is you can, once you kind of get an idea of how body mechanics work, at this point, you really don't need your reference. You've got your key poses, your basic understanding of how the shot works. I could kind of make up the in-between bits if I want to. Again, I recommend not doing this if you're just starting out, because how can you fill in the blanks if you don't know how it actually works to begin with? But I could drop the reference. For kind of demo's sake, I'm going to follow the reference kind of, take inspiration from it, and I'll show how I kind of analyze it. And hopefully that's large enough for you all to see there. So, for example, let's say we have this, and LG Extra, hey, thank you so much for the sub. Aw, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I know I don't mention this, but thank you all so much for the follows as well. I don't usually mention it because I'm so easily sidetracked, and the moment I start thanking everyone for the follows, I am never getting back onto the demo. It's just sad. But I do really, really appreciate that you would all follow along and like hang out here. It means a lot to me. And hey, Lyle, how's it going? Hello. Hope you're doing well. And let's see. And Blaze, hello. So, as we're going through here, let's look at that breakdown and see how we can analyze it. So as I'm going through here, basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at my breakdown and try to figure out what moves further, what's leading, what's following, where are my eyes focusing. So for example, as I look between these two poses here, one of the big things that my eyes are going to is the head. Right there. The head drops down quite a bit. The knee is also coming up quite high, and the elbows are coming in. Then from here to here, we really feel the elbows kind of doing the majority of the motion, specifically the screen left elbow. The head and the knee are both still crunching in, but they are no longer doing a large motion. So what that tells me is that as this is going through, the head is leading the action down, crunching down along with the knee, and then the elbows are continuing afterwards. So they all kind of start together here. Everything kind of crunches in somewhat together, but then the elbows are the one that continue the action. So what that means is, as I'm thinking of, oh, how do I exaggerate this? How do I make it so that as he's coming down, his knee and his head and his elbows don't all just feel like they crunch down together? Well, since I know the elbows are gonna keep moving later anyway, and I want them to be fast, I'm gonna hold them back a little bit. If I had them start to move first, and then they also end up moving last, that means that they're gonna be moving slower than everything else. They're gonna be moving longer. So I hold them back a little bit, let the head lead first, and then I get that nice impact in there. So that already tells me, I've got some way of exaggerating. I have a plan to go ahead. I might not follow it exactly, but just by looking at my reference, I have an idea, and I'm not going to be just guessing what I want. Now, this is also where it's nice to look at details, and this is very important. If we look at our animation right now, if you were to just guess at what the elbows are doing, he starts out here, and then as he comes in, he crunches in like this. So elbows start out, come in, done. Hey, nice and simple. If you look at the reference, watch what the elbows do. Very slight. But see that? Right before they come in, they go in further and then out. I'm exaggerating here. But you get this kind of in, out, and then they settle down. So it's not just straight in like this. It's got this arc inwards. That's an extra arc I can add into my animation to make things feel more dynamic, which is always nice. So let's start adding this breakdown, and we could keep looking at the reference, keep finding things out. We'll do this as we go along. So the first thing, I'm working in a stepped mode here. Usually I actually don't work in step mode, I work in splines, but I want to showcase this workflow because we haven't really done that too much on the streams here. So we've got this motion right here. And the problem here is I've set a key on frame 46, but you'll notice that between 44 and 46, nothing's changing. And that's not a bad thing, but what it means is that I have to go in now and pose out every single thing on this rig to try and in between it. Is that bad? No. But when you're starting to work on breakdowns, you know typically things are kind of gonna go somewhere in the middle. They're gonna be moving. I don't like to have to go through every single control to make sure that I'm actually moving something. It's just boring to me. So what I will instead do, and this is, if you have a tween machine, you can use this. I'll show this workflow just in case you don't have any plugins. I'm going to get rid of that key, and I'm going to take both keys on either side of the pose that I want. I'll just set the curves to linear. So now you can see that the character just kind of crunches in. I'll set a key and put everything back into step mode. There we go. Now we've got a straight in between. Yay. Is this a pose that we're going to keep? No. But it gets everything moving. So at least I have some motion to work off of versus having to move everything myself. At least for me, it just kind of works better with my brain. So we've got that. Now, just as a kind of example, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to draw over top of this very faintly. Let's see, should we use, no, we'll do this in red. That should show up a little bit better. The reason I want to draw over this is I want to showcase where the pose used to be. So this is what Maya gave us. And if we were to go into splines, whether that's auto tangents, whatever, this is going to be similar to the pose regardless. So I want to draw this out just to show how different our breakdown is going to be. And then we can compare afterwards. This is not something I do normally. This is just for demo purposes. Okay. So we've got that. Very faint, but it's there. Okay, let's turn that off. So let's start breaking this down. The first thing I do usually when I'm breaking things down is I'll start with the hips. And in this case, if we look at the hips, they're kind of staying up higher. On this pose, they're starting to drop, but it's a bouncing ball. Everything's a bouncing ball. As the hips go up here, they go up, there's some hang time, and then as the knee is coming up, the hips are coming down, but they have that hang time. They're not just dropping and crashing down into the ground. So with my key here, I know that this has to favor the top. I could just move it wherever I want, or I always have the graph editor open. I can just make sure that that favors near the top here. So now I'm getting that bouncing ball feeling. And even though I'm in stepped mode, I am looking at my keys and trying to imagine the arc that I would get. So just to kind of visualize this a little better, I'll put it to auto tangents. I'm trying to take that curve, I'm trying to imagine how it would move through there, even though I'm in step mode. It doesn't have to be perfect because we can refine it later, but I'm still thinking about that. So now we have a little bit of hang time there. It's starting to come down, maybe a little less, maybe around there. You'll notice I scrub through a lot as I break things down. I'm trying to visualize the motion, how the character is going through the scene. Now the sideways motion, he feels like he's moving too much to the side here. I feel like at this point, he should almost be easing into the end here, which is going to throw off my previous pose. But I think this one needed to be moved as well anyway. Kind of favor the ending here. So we get this kind of kick forward and even here. That's better. So you'll notice that as I go through this and as I start adding breakdowns, some of my animation changes. That's totally okay. Just because I had keys that seemed to work before does not mean that they have to stick there. So I want this kind of thrust forward here. Maybe a little less right there. Let the leg kind of lead the action. Right there. And then he comes down. I might also just bring the whole thing a little further back so he doesn't go nearly as far. Now, the reasoning behind this is I'm looking at the line of action of the body. See how it kind of flows into this leg? The further screen right you go, or sorry, screen left, the more you're going to get a weird bend in that leg. It's going to throw him off balance. So I can just take this whole section here and just have it move a little less screen left. And that's totally fine. So let's kind of ease that in there. Okay. That's good. And translate Z. We'll just get that kind of working here. So looking at it from this view, it's going to be the same thing. It should probably ease in here a little bit more. This could probably come out just a bit more here. There we go. So we're starting to build in that core motion. The reason I want to get the hips working first is that's going to be the core of all of the motion above and below it. If I don't get this right just now, it's going to affect everything else. Okay. Now the hip, rotate X. Let's just bring that in because he's going to be curling in, crunching forward. So if I bring his hips back like so, we're going to be able to really push that crunch. And then this one as well can come back just a bit. Keep him balanced. Okay. Rotate Y. Favor that, and then a little bit of rotate Z. Okay, so very quickly got the hips in place. From here, I'm going to focus a little bit more on posing. Now that I have that core motion underneath, I can just focus more on the character. So let's actually block in the big elements. So the biggest element is kind of the arms. They're going to determine a lot of the pose here. So oddly enough, I'm going to just start with those to kind of put them into a basic pose, and then we can use that to build off of. So once again, I want the head to lead here. I want the head to feel like it's moving the most. So even though in my reference we can really see the arms starting to come down, I want to just drag these back up just a little bit, right up here. We'll just kind of drag that up. They'll still be coming down. So it goes up and then down right here. That. But we're going to let the body crunch forward more. Okay. And that's going to really make this section here really hit harder. Okay. Now here, let's get that body to crunch just a little bit more. So I'm going to take my rotate X. Just crunch that in. As I'm doing this, I'm watching the head arc. Okay, good. That feels good. So now we get that feeling right here of the head and body coming down into that motion. And I can probably push that a little bit more. Like so. And let's push the head as well, just a little bit. As it's coming down. This is a weird song. I say that a lot on the stream. This is a weird song. I want the head to really lead the force downwards. So I'm going to move this down. I'm also going to translate. Let's maybe not go that far. Yep, a little further back. There we go. Really get that feeling that the head comes down into the neck right there, and then I think I might have some translate Y in there. I might just push that down a little bit more so we really feel that head leading the action here. And let's add some tilt to the head, and for this I might just kind of pose it out. Okay. We get that nice tilt in there, maybe a little bit more. And trying to push that arc in the head. So as he goes in, I want to kind of swoop to the head versus just straight down. If ever you have a character going down in a specific way, if you watch the nose, it should almost never just go straight up and down like that, as if they're just bending on one axis. That looks boring and kind of flat. If you can add just a little bit of visual interest, it makes things just interesting. Oddly enough, visual interest makes things interesting, huh? So we now have that head feeling like it's starting to lead. One thing I do want to double check is the spine. Let's look at our other rotations, just kind of see what's going on. So rotate Y is the twist. I want that to favor the elbow that's going to be coming down first, which in this case is the screen right elbow. So if I do this, that's going to help. It's going to kind of let that arm lead a little bit more. Then we can use our rotate Z here to kind of crunch that in a little bit more on that other side. So now we get a little bit of extra motion in there. And I just noticed that this is getting a little weird here, so let's line those back up. There we go. So it's still feeling a little flat. One of the reasons is the knee. The knee is just kind of hitting up here very slowly, and then it hits. That knee should almost be in the final position here. So let's get that into position here. Now I'm using IK knee. For something like this, if I really wanted some good polish, I would tend to probably favor FK. But because it's moving so fast, it really doesn't matter. So we get that. So see how now the knee hits into position and it still keeps moving up right here. But now it hits, then the body, then the arms. Right there. And that's when breakdowns start feeling interesting, because now instead of everything coming in and hitting on that same frame, which everything was coming in on frame 49, that's when they hit their maximum. Now here on frame 46, the body hasn't quite hit. It's still got some movement left to crunch in. The knee is pretty much in place, and the elbows aren't even close to being down. That's what's going to get you that nice breakup of action. So let's kind of push this a little bit more. I'm going to bring these in further so we really feel that crunch inwards and that arc. I think I might be able to lead a little bit more with the left, or his left arm screen right, just so we get an offset in the arms. And let's watch the elbow angle here. So right in here, you can see how the arm angle is kind of leaning towards screen left, and then it goes towards screen right, and then towards screen left again. That could end up feeling a little weird because it's going to have this kind of wiggle throughout. I'm going to try to keep that a little bit more consistent. So keep it facing screen left. Not too much, so I don't want to bend it all the way this way. But this would be a moment where I'm trying to simplify the action so that I get a cleaner read throughout. Even here. So I rotated that hand, but what's ending up happening is that his hand is going to do this little shake if I'm not careful. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but if I'm going to do it, I want to do it for a reason, to either add more visual interest or to make something feel more dynamic, not just because, oops, I got a wiggle. And I think I can press this elbow in just a little bit more as well. Just compress that in. So we're really pushing that tightness in there. And then we come down. And there we go. That's a basic breakdown. Now we could keep going further with this. It depends on how cartoony we want this to go. If this was a really cartoony breakdown and I knew I had to get through this very, very fast, I would start bending the arms, maybe smearing them. So for example, doing something like this, so you really feel that elbow leading in there. You'll see it more here. So if this was really cartoony, start to really shape those arms and legs. But one thing I can still do is maybe shape a little bit of his spine here. We kind of round out that back just a little bit. So we kind of feel a little bit more of a change in there. Now, one thing I'm feeling as I'm going through this is the arc of the head kind of feels like it's going left, a little right, and then left again. I'm not a fan of that. Right here, this is too much. So I'm going to take my neck control here and just kind of bring that head back and over, and maybe tilt the head back a little bit more too. I want that a nice clean feeling through there. If all of his momentum is going screen left, it feels weird that his head would go screen right. It just kind of makes it disconnected in a weird way. So I just want to watch that. Okay. So there we go. Now let's actually compare what our old pose was. You can see not a huge difference. Really, it's not that big. But you can see how far the leg has come up. The leg is almost in place. The body is much lower. You can see where his shoulders used to be right here. So his body's leading quite a bit more. I should actually push the clavicles a bit more too. And the hands are a little higher while the head is lower. Is it a huge change? Not really. And we could, again, this depends on the style that you're going for. But you could go even further than this if you wanted to. So one thing I'm gonna try to do here is I'm just going to bring this arm out so we get a little negative space between the head and the arm there. Just like that. But we get that a little bit of a change. And it's enough. That's the big thing. It's enough that it's going to break things up and make it more visually interesting. Okay. Now, let's go to the next pose. The next pose I actually want to add in is probably going to be right in here. I don't necessarily need it. But at least in the case for this animation, it's going to help add the impact. So I'm going to add it in super quick. What if his chest leads and his head is delayed? I could do that. The problem with that is I feel like it's going to give him whiplash in this case. I kind of want the head to be leading the crunch down so that it kind of gives him more control. If his chest leads, it'll make him feel like he's kind of just ragdolling across versus tense and like he's just got all this pent up energy that he has to release and he just can't get it out. When you start doing that, your neck tightens up, everything tightens. So it's very hard for your chest to lead the action without your head going along with, or the head leading in there. So this is where I'm just thinking of the subtext of the scene. If it was loose and relaxed, yes, definitely you could have the chest lead a lot more. And is that a new grease pencil tool? It is a plugin. So this is the blue pencil plugin. I can't remember the cost. It's not that expensive, like $30 or something like that. But it's a great plugin because it's got layers. It's got all sorts of cool features. So if you tend to use the graph editor a lot, sorry, not graph editor, the grease pencil a lot, I highly recommend it. Would it still be a bad idea for the body to go left and head to stay right for a bit? It's not necessarily a bad idea. It's just a different feeling. In this case, because he's doing this big forward motion, to have the head and body once again go in different directions when he's supposed to be tense would feel very strange. It'll make him feel loose and maybe a little wiggly, whereas I want him to feel just tight and not in control per se, but his body is just really being held together. So I'm gonna try to exaggerate that. And Mr. Taco, hello! So let's add another key here. Now, once again, I could just set a key and we get this, but like I said before, I don't like working from a still pose. And hey, Mr. Taco, thanks so much for the sub. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I love this song. So I could start from this still pose, but like I said, I'm not a fan of that just because it's boring. So I'm going to just delete that. Take my two keys, set it to linear, set a key, set them back to stepped. Or if you have like Animbot, you could just hit the tween button, or if you have another tween tool, you could do that. The big thing to always keep in mind is that when you are tweening something like that, It is not an excuse to be lazy and go, key done, moving on. No, that is not the case at all. At this point, it is now going through and really trying to exaggerate your posing. This is just a beginning to the pose. Let's see. So here, we're just going to really try to get that hitting into the next pose. And what I'm going to use this key for is a way to offset things right within my posing. So for example, I have the translate Y, I'm working with the hips. It's easing in to the next key. So bouncing ball comes down. The translate Y, you'll notice that I actually tweaked the curve. So now it goes down, and this is now the peak. This is the lowest point. Whereas the frame after starts to go up. So one curve, the translate Y, is easing in. This one is overshooting. So we start to get a little bit of a visual change in here. And we can see it right here between these two poses. See how his hips are already starting to lead screen right? Tiny bit. But that's enough that we build this offset. So instead of everything coming down and getting to their lowest point, furthest right point, furthest forward point, all on the same frame, we're building this tiny little offset. And we're going to feel that in the animation. So same thing here. Right now, his motion eases in forward. I could maybe overshoot that just a little bit. Just a little bit like that. Not as much as the other key. But now we have the body starting to come back. Now as the hips go screen right, I want everything else to keep going screen left. That'll build a nice contrast in motion. If you have one thing moving in one direction and then another moving in another direction, and then it creates a nice contrast. So as his hips start moving back, the head, right now it's kind of just staying linear. I want that to keep moving forward on this frame. Okay. So he comes in. Let's get that knee in place here. So that knee is going to basically just hit in place. I might push it back a little bit from where it was. We'll see. So let's arc that through. I love the graph editor for stuff like this. It makes your life so much easier. Okay, see here how the foot and the hips are moving both screen left and then screen right. I don't want that, because that automatically kills that feeling of overlap and makes the leg and the hip feel like they're just locked together. I want this, where you feel that foot moving screen left still because of that momentum of the kick, and the hips starting to reverse. That's that contrasting action. This is what Maya would not give you, or any animation program, honestly. They will not give you things like this if you just hit spline or just like linear, set a key, done. You don't get this by default. This is stuff you have to build in. I also want to add just a little bit of kick to the foot, so as he comes up, add some tension to the foot. So I'm going to just rotate this forward here and get that rotated through here. So basically as he's kicking, we feel a little bit of a rotation in the foot and like a tension in there. Okay, so that's the hip. Let's make sure we get our rotates in there too. So as he's starting to come back, let's start with the rotate Y. I want those hips to drag on that side. So right here, let's actually make sure that this keeps dragging here. So as it comes back, I'm going to exaggerate this just so you can see. As his hips start to go screen right, that leg here is dragging, so that hip should drag as well. I'm trying to connect the body in there very slightly. Okay. Rotate Z. This should be fine. Let's actually overshoot this a little bit. So that's going to be the twist. Get that nice kick up here where his hip goes up higher. And then it's starting to come down because of gravity. And then the rotate X, that's just going to keep crunching in. Just like that. So this is something I do all the time when I'm animating. I talk my way through the animation. Now, I don't usually do it out loud, or I hope I don't. Maybe, who knows, I've been working alone for so long, I'm just talking to myself the whole time. Maybe I'm not even streaming right now, I'm just imagining it. Oh no. But I talk through what I'm doing. I'm trying to think, okay, why is the hip doing what it's doing? Why do I want this motion versus another motion? And what that helps, for me at least, is to just understand that this is just not random motion. It's not just the character sliding around on screen. All of this is happening for a reason. And it's going to be one of those things where it changes depending on the shot. So I'm doing kind of a more physically realistic shot right now. But if I was doing a really cartoony shot, I would be pushing this in totally different ways. And I would be thinking of these curves in different ways. Why is the curve moving this way? Because it has to be cartoony, so it has to move faster. I have to have a bigger impact here, whatever reasoning I need. Let's see. Right here, I'm kind of looking through this, and I feel like the head's moving too far here down, and partly the reason for that is that his hips are dropping right here. So it's dragging the head down. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But if I can, I would love to crunch it in some more. Let's ease that out here. So between this pose and this pose, I would like the head to not travel as much. And there's a few different ways I can do this. One of them is I could just crunch the body a lot more. So on this pose, I'm gonna just exaggerate this. Crunch him down like that. And now you'll notice if I just look at the translate Y of the head, goes down and then it stays down. Now the problem with this is now his whole body is like out of whack. So let's just bring this back here. Watching that arc of the head. There you go. So now we get that same motion of the hips, that drop of the hips, we feel that, but the head has a little bit of a different curve, a different spacing to it. So we don't just feel like the whole body is just dropping as a whole. So this is my favorite little example, thinking of a toy, and you drop the hips, or in this case the base, and everything drops at the same time. It's just flat and not interesting. By having the head lead like this, and Taxiana, hey, hello, thank you so much for the sub. I really appreciate that. It's so sweet. Thank you guys so much for all the subs. And also all the follows too. So now because of this, we get this offset where you see the head drop and then the hips drop, but the head, the spacing right here is much smaller than the spacing of the hips. And let's actually kind of prove that right here. So if I look there to there, And then let's actually do this on a different layer. This is what I love about this tool. So I can make a new layer, and this is going to be just my spacing layer. So from here to here to here, and then let's go there as well. And then if we kind of do the hip at the same time, there, drop, ease. So let's turn on our spacing. I don't know how well this is showing up for all of you. It's super faint. I wonder if I can actually change the opacity. Okay. That's at least a little better. I'm sure there's probably some opacity setting somewhere. Let's see. I want you guys to be able to see it. Maybe not. Yeah, it looks like they only have those. Oh well. Hopefully you guys can see it. So big spacing on the head right here. Small spacing on the hips. The hips, biggest spacing right between these two, which is different than the one for the head. Let's actually make the brush bigger. That's probably going to help. Okay, yeah. Hey, you can actually see it when it's got weight to it. So the gap here is about there. Whereas the hips, it's not much, but it's a little bit bigger. We feel that slight difference, and it creates an offset. They are not just dropping at the same time, continually consistent in a boring way. So a very important thing that I always tend to try and look for in my motions like this. Now, like I was saying, I don't want the body to start coming back right here just yet. As the hips start to come back, the body should keep going forward. So simple enough. I'll just kind of lean him forward more here. So there we go. So feel how we can see that forehead just move a little bit more forward as the hips start to come back. That's pretty much it. So now he goes in. Okay. So we've got that. We can push the head maybe a little bit more. Get a little bit of an arc in the face. I'm just going to bring that over. Maybe let's add a little. No, it's leading down. Just gonna keep going. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so now we get that slide in. And then here, I feel like I can push the head just a little bit more. Screen left. So we really feel that slide forward there. Okay, so we've got a little twist on the head as he's going in. All these subs make me hungry for a sandwich. I've never really had subs, unfortunately. I've only had them like 3 or 4 times, usually when I go to like CTN, because there's not that many restaurants down in the CTN region. So there's like Subway, Panda Express, and then a Japanese restaurant. So you end up eating there a lot. Okay. So we've got that. Oh, thanks. Tara keeping me alive with the reminders. Another thing here is the arms. Right now they're kind of flat. I want them to go out and have kind of a shake to them. So I can build that in right now. The other thing is, if you watch the reference, this is a cool little moment. You can see how the screen right elbow comes down and then bounces up as the rest keeps going down. We get this twist in the body. I'm going to try to build that in. So I'm going to bring this elbow down here, lower. So it's really going to slam down and then come up. Let's keep pushing it until we really feel it. And even here, I think I can pull this up just a little bit more. So right there, you can now feel that shake right through there. The other thing is, if you watch the wrists, see how they go out then in right there? And they both do it. I can start breaking that in there as well. I'm not trying to copy my reference. I might reduce it. I might build it up a little bit more. Who knows? But I see it, so I'm going to try to incorporate it a little bit. One thing I'm feeling right here is that this elbow is coming in too fast. If I look between the frames, I was kind of losing the arc that I have because of my camera angle. It's slightly different. So let's bring that back. Make sure I get that nice clean arc. And then here, I think I could push it up just a little bit more, but make a bigger anticipation. Okay, so something like that. And at its lowest point, it should also be at its tightest here before kind of uncurling there. So let's really tighten that up there. And just watching my arcs as I'm doing this. The elbow is kind of flattening out right here. Let's kind of bring this back up. Bring this down lower. It also helps if I kind of push the clavicle down. So we get that twist in the shoulders. You feel that drop. So we get whoomp, and you feel that shake in the shoulder. This one frame, so it might feel a little poppy, but it shouldn't be too bad. We can always adjust it later. Okay, now this arm, the big thing is that elbow needs to come in and then back out. So really pushing that arc through there. I think this pose could be pushed a little bit as well. So like that. And you can really see how just doing that one arm change made a huge difference in the feeling of this movement. This is the power of breakdowns. Is now when we come in here, we're not just having everything come in and then back out. We've got a little shake. We've got the hips starting to go screen right while the body keeps going screen left. We're adding tension into the neck. All of this comes from the breakdowns. And specifically thinking through your breakdowns. Making sure you're not just dealing with the very boring basic stuff. And now we're starting to get this little shake in the hand, this kind of that motion in there versus boom, down, up. Now, one thing here is, as I look at this, look at the range of motion. See how the hands are moving about the same right there? You can kind of, it's just doing, he's doing a little dance. I don't want that. I want one arm to move more than the other. So I'm going to try and tone this down. So that we get a little bit more of an even motion, or sorry, we get more motion on one arm versus the other. So like this even. See how we can feel more motion on the screen left arm, or sorry, screen right. I'm getting my directions confused. And then this pose needs to just be a little higher. There we go. And then this one a little further away from his head. Get that negative space in there. Okay. Getting there. There we go. Is it perfect? Not yet, but we're getting there. So now we've got that. Now it feels still a little soft to me. And I think partly it's that the body, it kind of hits this pose here and then just stays. When the arms kind of crunch down, I'd like to see kind of an extra break in the body. So what I mean by that is as he comes down, he crunches in here, and then on this pose, we just feel like a secondary crunch in his abs, where that weight of the arms coming down just kind of pushes it even further, and then we get kind of a motion back. Yeah, something like this. So now you feel how it kind of, as the arms hit, it's almost like it's dragging his body down, and then his body has to kind of recover from that. And then let's maybe drag the head down a little more here. So now we get an offset in the body and the head too. Yeah, that feels better. Very slight, but now the body doesn't just come down and then ease to a stop as the arms are doing this violent like crunch down into his body. So yeah, and with that we've got our first two breakdowns there. Now we could keep going with that, but the big thing to keep in mind when you're adding breakdowns, I'm talking about this a lot, I'm kind of going in depth on a lot of this. I tend to break things down a little faster and not quite as in-depth as I'm doing here. At this point, I'm kind of polishing as well. I wouldn't say polishing, refining as well. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to show you the full process so it doesn't feel like I'm just leaving things unfinished. It's okay to be a little rougher than I'm doing here. That's totally fine. Because as we saw earlier, we might be changing some stuff here. So I don't want to get lost in a ton of details too early. If I do that, what's going to end up happening is I'm just going to be fighting more changes later. In this case, it's okay because we're kind of working our way through it. But just be aware that you can go a little faster. As long as you're thinking about all of this and you're not forgetting it and going, well, I don't need to worry about it. Moving on. It's okay. This reference is... This was another thing that I wanted to show with this reference here is don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself in your reference. If I was to try and do this and look like normal and not like super scrunched up, I wouldn't have the energy in there. When I was doing this, I went all out. Like, you don't see it in this reference, but I was going so far that I actually almost fell over because I was just throwing myself around so much. When you're doing this, go all out with your reference, because the more you go out and all out in your reference, the less you have to try and exaggerate and come up with motion in your shot. If I was to just go, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna miss out on a lot of the body mechanics and those little shakes, like that shake of the arms. I wouldn't have that if I was doing this slowly and carefully. So just something to watch out for when you're shooting reference. Get over the fact that, yeah, you're going to look like a fool. If anything, it just makes it better. Acting like this with this much energy isn't normal. Not for most people. For most people, when they're recording reference, and Cameron and I were especially like this, there's this feeling that as soon as you're being recorded, everything has to tone down. You have to like be more not respectful, but like you have to present yourself well. And when you get over that, for anyone who has that, that's when reference really comes alive. When you just like, oh, I'm gonna make a fool of myself. And then like for me and Cameron at this point, it's okay, let's see how much of a fool we can make of ourselves. Let's go even further. And I'm using a student license, yes, because I am a teacher, so I use a student license for this version. I do have a freelance account as well, but because I use that one for my actual work, when I'm teaching and doing demos, I tend to use my student license instead. But either way, it's kind of the same. Now I saw some questions here. Do I give mentoring? I don't have like a mentoring program just of my own, but I do teach an animation mentor. So in that sense, yes, I do mentor. I don't have the time to give like specialized mentoring, unfortunately. But if you do, and this goes for anyone, if anyone has questions, feel free to ask in here. It's not true mentoring, but I'm always happy to help. Hey, I remember you. You were on Sir Wade's channel. Yes, I was. Also, hello. Good to see you here. They were both on his channel, though, doing the collab drawing thing. Yep. Man, I want to do a collab drawing thing again. It was so much fun. And Cameron's got so many new designs. He's been doing some cool redesigns of Aquamentus, which I'm so excited for. It's so creepy looking in the best way. Do you have any insight on how to detect when one is being too granular or nitpicky with one's poses? I sometimes will get into breakdowns and be like, but I will spend too much time posing one controller only to burn myself out with little progress. That's tricky. You can see by the way I'm doing this is I kind of fall into that as well. I really start getting nitpicky about things. The big thing is just try to get the main motions in there first. So focus on, for example, just the hip, spine, arms. Just get the feeling through there. From there, you can start refining the nitpicky spacing, stuff like that. Like I said, I'm kind of going into that nitpicky stuff already. But when you're breaking things down, you don't have to worry about that too much too soon. I feel like I need to push my translate. So see, this is where that nitpickiness is coming in. I kind of want to exaggerate my spacing here. You don't necessarily have to do that at this point. Okay. I'm just getting the spacing of the head working here. Okay. So let's keep breaking some things down. So now we've got from here to here. Big change. And this is definitely where we're going to have a lot of boring motion. Everything's just going to slide into place. So let's add a breakdown here. Now, we've got this wide expanse of time. Where do you put the breakdown? That's one question that a lot of people tend to struggle with is we've got 49 to 57. So 8 frames. Where do I put the breakdown? At what point do I put it? What's going to make sense? Do I go in the middle? Do I go half, like a quarter? Do I just put it wherever? There's no real answer for this. There's not like one thing that you will always do. It can be a lot of different things. So for example, usually I look for a few different elements. One is something important happening in my reference? So for example, I'll look through here and I don't really see anything like a contact where, okay, I want this hand to contact the table or something on this frame, or I'm going to be touching my own face or like clapping my hands, and I want to get that one moment right on that frame. I don't have anything like that. So there's no key points that I have to watch out for. In that case, the next thing that I try to focus on is I want to be able to break this down in a nice, efficient way. And for me, I'm going to try to draw this out. It's hard to explain. Like in my brain, it makes sense, but whenever I try to write it out, it just doesn't come out quite as I want it to. So let's say you have frame 1 and then frame 9. So 8 frames total. And these are your key poses. And you need to break this down. And we're just going to have this sphere here. This is on frame 1. And then it's going to go over here. Frame 9. So this is where your timing and where you put your breakdowns can make it easier to figure out where your in-betweens go. So let's see if I can make this make sense. So we've got frame 1, frame 9. The first thing I want to do is I want to break this down in a way that's easy to in-between. So if I, for example, put a key right in the middle, so that's going to be frame 5. That's my breakdown. That'll leave 4 frames and 4 frames on either side. Which means I can then break those down in half, so that's going to be 3 and 7. And now we've got 2, 2, 2, 2. It's nice and even. Everything is easy to break down, and I'm not getting some sections that are heavily keyed and others that are not keyed at all. And this is specifically for a moment that has a bunch of motion. If there was a hold here, that would all change. But we've got all of this, and this is going to make it very easy to break down and analyze the spacing much easier. Now, the reason this is helpful, let's kind of clear out our extra numbers here. Okay, so we've got this. If we put 5 right in the middle, timing wise, the first thing that a lot of people tend to think is, but won't that make the timing boring? Won't that make the animation dull and linear? No, because the key in the middle is, if we just let it do its own thing and just let Maya spline things out, yes, it would be boring, because not only would it be in the middle timing wise, but it would be in the middle spacing wise as well. So frame 5 would be right here, perfectly in the center between these. But if we know that our timing is even, but we push our spacing to be uneven, now we get a disconnect between them, which makes things more interesting and makes a contrast. So for example, if I know from frame 1 to frame 5, the ball only goes over here, so that's frame 5 right there, suddenly I know that in that same amount of time here, the ball only travels this far, and in the same amount of time there, travels this far. See that difference, that range, and how it doesn't match up anymore? I know my spacing is interesting now. I know that my timing is actually going to be interesting as well, because this is going to be slow and this is going to be fast. If you're just putting keys randomly, it becomes harder to create this like connection between them. At least for me, this is how my brain works. So by putting, yeah, exactly, you favor one key pose over the other. By putting my first major breakdown right in the middle, I can very easily start favoring what's going to lead and what's going to follow. So for example, if that's the head right here, right there, and then we add a little body here, on frame 5, that body could drag back even more here, or maybe it'll lead. So we get this kind of movement like so. So now the head is dragging, but the body is leading on frame 5. I can push that lead very easily. So hopefully that makes sense. It's when you start practicing it, it becomes more kind of a little easier. So let's just actually put into practice. So I know I have 8 frames right there. I'm just going to break it down right in half. I'm not going to worry too much about the actual timing of it all. This just makes it so I can focus on the spacing, which also affects the timing. Timing is involves spacing. They kind of go hand in hand. So this it removes an element from the equation for me. Now let's actually do this the other way. So let's take our keys, set this to linear, set a key, put it back into step mode. Once again, you could use like Tween Machine or something like that. This is the free way that you can get your nice tweens, no problem. So we get this. And once again, I'm going to actually draw this out because this is going to be a big pose where we're really going to see the difference between our breakdown and our what Maya would have given us. So let me make that a little thinner. I'm just going to draw this out approximately where this is. I should also save right after I do that because that would be a smart thing to do. Save often. It's a good thing. Okay. So there's our pose. Very rough, but that's all we need. So let's save and then we'll start posing it out. And as this is saving, what version of Animbot are you using? I'm using the latest one. So I have the subscription version. Which, like, to me, it's worth it because I do classes and stuff. So it's nice to have, and so that I know what tools are available to students. But at the same time, I actually don't really use Animbot that much because a lot of the things I do are kind of instructional based. I just don't use it that often. And why can I not deselect my controls? Weird. Interesting. So I can't select oh, my brush tool is locked. There we go. So you'll notice that I couldn't do anything is because my brush tool is locked. Just hit the B key or M key if that happens to you. Let's see. According to you, what is the maximum time of animation for a new student? I'm not sure what you mean, like the length of a shot or how much time you should spend on a shot. If you're a new student, there's we'll answer both of those. The first one is spend like a week or 2 per shot. Don't spend a month working on one shot to try and polish it up. If you're new, you want to get a lot of quick, small shots through. That way you can keep learning faster and faster and faster. If you're spending all of your time on just one long shot and you're spending months on it, if something didn't work out at the beginning, it means that things won't work out later. So you don't want to do that. You want to just get lots of quick tests in there. So for the length of the shot, I wouldn't go any higher than like 150 frames. Just keep it really short. Focus on understanding how to make the motion work, how to make it appealing, and if it doesn't work out, hey, who cares? You throw it out, start again. That's going to be the best way to learn quickly. And then as you do that, you can start working on bigger shots, but still keep doing the smaller, just like even a 24 frame shot is going to teach you a lot. And it's going to be much easier to go through that whole process of blocking plus, all the way to polish, on 24 frames. And if it doesn't work, who cares? If it does, hey, great, you learned a lot. Then doing a 600 frame shot, and by the end, it didn't turn out because something in the blocking failed. And especially when you're starting, what failed? Who knows? It is a learning process. And this goes for anything. So if you're doing like art, it's good to do the small tests. It makes it easier to kind of keep learning. So let's go here. So one thing I'm noticing as we look at our reference, so once again, analyze your reference. As we go through here, watch what's happening. The hips are not going back that far. The character is moving backwards away from camera. The leg is coming down. The leg is the biggest thing that's moving here. The body is coming up, but we get the biggest motion right through here. So it's favoring the down and then popping up. The arms, this hand is actually, like they're both going, well actually this one is pretty much stopped in place. So the hands are sticking in place as the rest is moving. This creates a nice contrast. So leg is leading, hip is starting to move up, but it's not really moving screen right too much. So we're going to ease that out. The body is straightening, so the head is going up, but it's still favoring the down. And then the hands stay pretty still. Okay, so that gives me, I know what I'm aiming for now. So let's start getting into this. So let's focus on that translate X first. It's going to start or keep moving back here, but just a little bit. So I want this pose here. We shouldn't really feel too much of a change right there. From here, if I look at his hips to there, I want to feel a little change. So right now, I'm not feeling enough. It looks like I'm moving it a lot, but this is where your spacing in the graph editor is going to be different from your visual spacing. Visual spacing is looking at the silhouette. And you see this a lot with a bouncing ball. So let me actually show the concept here first. So if you have a bouncing ball, and we're going to just do a spacing chart here. So you've got a pose here. It's going to, let's do this with a bounce up. So the ball is going to bounce upwards, and our spacing is going to pop up and then ease into the top here like that. Now, if you do a bouncing ball and you don't add squash and stretch, that's pretty easy. You put it there, goes up, 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 like that. Well, very easily we can see that that spacing is correct. Everything looks good. The problem here comes in when we start dealing with squash and stretch and changing the silhouette. So for example, if this ball is bouncing out, normally we would add a stretch right here. And if we use the same spacing, so put the center of the ball right here, the center of the sphere is going to be right at that same height. What you're going to end up with is something like this, and then we'll kind of tone down the squash and stretch here, and then there. Notice something with the spacing? This gap here, even though our spacing in the center is correct, if you look at the spacing between the objects, this is actually narrower. And we could exaggerate this even more. If we push that stretch right here, suddenly our spacing doesn't make sense. Our visual spacing, we get a tiny little spacing there, much bigger spacing there. This is where you have to watch your visual motion. You cannot just trust the center of the object or like a motion trail all the time. In this case, we can see, oh man, that's moving a lot, but in my reference, I'm not really moving at all. I should tone this down. But if you actually look at where the hips are, look at this edge right there of the pants. Visual spacing is still moving screen left. I need to move him screen right. right there. So hopefully that makes sense. As much as we're trying to move things correctly in the graph editor is just a tool. If I'm seeing no motion in my shot, in my reference, it doesn't mean that I bring this all the way back here, because as that happens, now he's actually going screen left. So just be careful of that. Let's see, there was a question here. Can you do a demo on camera animation in the future? I can definitely do put that into my list. I've been wanting to do camera animation for a while. If there's something specific you want to know about camera animation, definitely let me know. Okay. So the hips are going to start to come up here. So let's actually start building things up. So hips come up. I want some weight in the hips. So let's kind of get that in there. I don't want it to be favoring the top. So this is where the key in the middle helps a lot. So because I know that my key in the middle is right in the middle timing wise, I know that if I just keep this favoring the lower pose, I'm going to have this nice ease out and then pop up. Very nice. It'll add some weight in there. It was very simple, but it makes it much easier to figure this out. Okay, so we've got that. We're going to go back to the translate X in a little bit. Now here, let's have those hips start to come back. Ease out there. I wonder if I can maybe keep it going forward just a little bit more here, just to offset things. Okay. And then let's get our rotations in there. So the rotate X, I know... well, let's start with the rotate Y, because this is going to be a more important one. The rotate Y, I know, is going to have to move quite a bit because the hip is dropping down here. So since the leg is dropping down. So I want that to really feel connected. So I'm gonna have that start going down. Same thing with the rotate Z. I want that to drop down with the hip. Right there. It'll drop down and then we'll get that raise up a little bit. This is going to help connect the hip to the main motion. Then the rotate X, that's just going to be based on how much I uncurl the body. Because it's not going to be uncurling too much, it should still stay quite low here. So ease that out. Do I have a schedule? I do. Let's see. I have right there. So that's Central Time, CST. So I try to have a wide range in my times just to hopefully get make it more available for anyone around the world. Since I know a lot of people come from Animation Mentor, which is an international school, it's kind of a pain when everything's just set up for like American or Canadian times. So hopefully that works out for people. Okay. So let's kind of favor the body back. So let's keep him crunched in a little longer. I want to watch his body here as he goes through. I should feel that raise a little bit, but I don't want it to be too much. Mostly so that we really feel it afterwards. Let's favor this back quite a bit. And I could even add maybe a little... Do I want to add a twist here? Where it... Yeah, maybe it'll just be a little bit and that will overshoot it past here. So his twist in the body is going to still favor the previous pose. Get some weight in there. Same thing here. So we get that nice big change. Okay. Let's get the head in place. So the head is going to pretty much just stay down. It's going to drag downwards here. So now as he's coming up, I want just this little bit of a drag right there. So we feel that the body is starting to raise up and then the head snaps up. And maybe add a little... See, which way do I want to twist the head? No, let's twist it this way to add a little bit more weight to it. So you kind of feel that drag of the skull. Okay. So, thinking through the motions. That's honestly, like, we're going to be adding a lot of breakdowns here, but it really comes down to thinking through the actions. Why is your character doing what they're doing? And how can you use that to influence the motion in a more readable way? So it's not just sliding across. Okay. So now we've got that motion there. I feel like the head and body are kind of in line, but it's not terrible. Part of that is the arm dropping down. It's affecting the silhouette of the shoulder. So I'll have to tweak that. But one thing I do want to tweak is this foot. So notice here how as it's coming down, it's just going in a straight line. That's the IK syndrome. It's just going to be straight, boring line. Instead, I want this to arc. And as we would arc this foot, more than likely it's going to arc kind of outwards. So it's going to go down and through just because of the bone structure. Otherwise, it's going to end up looking more like a kick down to the ground. So I'm going to do that, get that nice arc built in there. Then from the front view here, let's just push our silhouette. So I could use the graph editor for this as well, but since it's such a big motion, I usually only use the graph editor for smaller motions. I feel it makes it much better because you can get a lot of fine detail. For big motions like this, I'll just pose it out. It's easier. And then this knee, it will need to come out here because that doesn't make sense that the knee is this far in. So that's my translate X. Yeah, like right there. That needs to go over here. Yeah, that's better. So I don't know what went wrong with that key. What are the hotkeys to jump through frames? On Maya, by default, it's comma and period. And then if you hold down Alt, you can go frame by frame as well, which won't make a difference here because it's in step mode. But you'll notice I do this all the time. I'm constantly just bouncing back and forth. And the reason for this is that I'm trying to understand the motion and try to get a feel for it. How does this motion feel? Am I getting what I want out of this? So in this case, I really want that leg to be the thing that leads back here. Maybe I can bring that knee up just a little bit more. So we get that leg that really feels like it kicks through down as the body barely raises. So you feel that contrast right there. Let's see. Like shots with moving cameras. Okay, we can definitely do some moving camera stuff. Let's see, catching up with the chat. Okay, there's a question about IKFK. I'll get to that in just a second. There are dynamic cameras following the character, establishing camera shots, close-up shots with subtle camera movement, and then the camera shakes. Yeah, that's a whole subject. Camera work and cinematography in general is a deep topic. If you look at anyone who has to do like previs for a show, and they're talking about like what they have to think about in terms of like setting up a scene, it is amazing the depth that they will go into. There's so many shots where you think, oh yeah, it's simple enough, there's not too much there, and then when you actually hear the directors or the previous artists talk about it, it's like, oh, whoa, that's a lot of different things. Just how like we're thinking about, okay, how do we move the hips versus the head versus this to make this contrast? They are thinking of, okay, which camera angle is going to be the best? How is it going to tell a story? What's it going to make the audience feel? How can we make the character feel empathetic versus scary versus this versus that? And how that's going to tie into the next one and build there's so much. It's just, you can dive into that forever. But I do love it. Cinematography is one of those things that I don't get to do too often. Not as often as I would like, but I do love doing it, even though I will admit I'm not very good at it. Because I don't do it enough. I don't have enough time to practice a lot of the cinematography stuff, but I do love just kind of throwing together storyboards and thinking through a shot. Cameron and I actually were doing that for the 24-hour animation challenge. We had been thinking of doing a demo on our segment of the stream that we were hosting. We had been thinking of like trying to animate a shot and just kind of showing our process, kind of like what we're doing here. We ended up not having the time to do it, but we were just storyboarding some stuff together and throwing out ideas, and it was a lot of fun trying to think through, okay, why are we moving the camera here? What's the point? Why would we want to do something like that? What's the camera going to tell about the story? All of that cool stuff. And we might end up revisiting that idea. We'll see. If we have the time. So I'm just watching the arcs of the hand. What I'm trying to do here is I want the elbow to start leading screen right as the wrist goes screen left. So it creates this little bit of a shake and twist to the motion of the hand versus just the whole thing moving like a single unit. When will the challenge take place? The challenge has already happened. The 24-hour animation challenge, that was last Saturday. So yeah, last Saturday. It's why there wasn't a stream last Saturday, for anyone who's curious. Cameron and I were hosting for a few hours, and we also got interviewed, which was interesting. I think that was our first interview, or at least our first interview that had to do with like Pratt Bros, the streams and all of that stuff. So that was fun. And then we got to hang out with Jean Denis and Sir Wade. And it was just a fun time all around. Definitely love to work with them again at some point. It is recorded. If you do want to check out the stream, there's a lot of good talks in it. You can find it on the frame by frame Twitch channel. Okay, so I'm watching this hand here. And it needs to drop lower. Right there. See, I love the song, but it's a little too quiet. There we go. So trying to keep that arm... Keep that arm a little bit more still and moving down right through here. Let's actually add a little shake to it. It comes through, down. Right here, it's going to be a little higher. So, down, lower here. Then a little higher. And then lower again. So now we're going to start building in that little shake in there, that extra energy into that moment versus just going up and down in a boring linear way. Okay. So we've got that. We could keep refining this, but I think for now we're pretty good. Yeah. So again, we don't want to spend too much time and like nitpick this to death. This is good enough. Now, we can look at this and do we need more breakdowns? Honestly, we don't really need another breakdown between these two poses because this is pretty self-explanatory. The body is holding quite a bit. Okay, this arm is bothering me. See how the head and the arm are kind of moving up together? You can feel it in the elbow. I don't like that. This is me being nitpicky. So I want that head to go up, but the elbow should stay lower. So like that. Now we feel that head moving and the hand stays in place. Okay, yay. Yay for nitpickiness. Okay, so we don't really need another breakdown right here because aside from the leg moving, not much else is really happening. So this is like where we would just have to come up with the decision, do we need it, do we not? I can always add it in later, but it's not crucial right now. Here though, this would be nice to have a little bit more of a breakdown between these two poses because we're seeing the arms and the head all moving up really fast all together. And which one's going to lead first? Which one's going to follow? Just with this, it's going to be hard to tell. We've got the leg kicking back, all of this stuff. So what I'm looking at is when I go through here, where are my eyes focusing? And there's the leg, there's the head, and then there's this elbow. All these three, which are top, bottom, and middle of the screen, are all trying to catch my attention all at the same time. That is one indication to me, at least, that I need a little bit more detail here. I need my eyes to follow one thing first, not everything all together. So let's add a breakdown, and I'm just going to go right in the middle again. Let's take everything, and once again, let's do the poor man's tween machine. Set that to linear, set a key, set it back into step mode. Now again, we are not using this as a cheat to just go, haha, look at that, it is now moving, yay, in between. Let's actually compare the pose that we had before. So this is our new breakdown. This is what Maya gave us before. You can see how different it is. Before, the body was just throwing itself back. Whereas now, the body is staying crunched up. The hands are really staying back. What's moving instead is the hips screen right. That's the feeling that we're seeing right now. So this is the importance of a breakdown. You are not just letting Maya fill in the blanks blindly. If you do, you're getting into a lot of trouble. Just with your animation, it's going to be such a pain to deal with later. Okay, so as we go through here, I'm going to start looking at what do I see in my motion. And in this case, the big motion in the head is kind of happening between 55 and 57. So I'm going to try to save that for there. And then the hands are just starting to come down. The knee is kicking back. So let's kind of push this a little bit. Now, one thing I'm kind of noticing as I'm doing this, and this is where, again, things will change. This knee, because it's kicking back so far between this first two poses, I'm going to end up easing it out too much at the end. And I'm going to end up getting this really weird, like, soft landing to the foot. So I'm going to push the knee a little bit more at the beginning so it doesn't go quite as far. But what this is going to allow us to do is have a stronger contact with the ground here. And can I explain the trick? Definitely. So let's say you have to add in a breakdown somewhere and you're working in stepped mode. This is specifically for stepped blocking. The big problem is that if you just go in here, select all your controls and set a key, there's no change between these two poses because it's in stepped mode. That's the whole point. And at least for me, I don't like working in this way because that means I have to move every single control. Otherwise, I'm going to get these weird hitches where the body just freezes for a little bit and it just gets really weird. So I have to go through every single control and try to move it. It's a pain. I'd rather have a little bit of motion and use that motion as a starting point than to try to build everything myself. So to do that, you just, before you set a key, take the two sets of keys before and after your pose, go into linear mode. You can also go into splines, it doesn't matter. Anything that'll get you those curves. So now it's moving. I'll set a key and then go back into step mode. And now we get this linear, boring motion. It's not a good pose. It is terrible. Like you can see here, compared to the reference, that arm is just going straight out. Whereas in my reference, the arm goes up, then out. So already we can see that's not going to be right. But at least it's moving things for me so that I have somewhere to start with. So this is the typical way if I'm working in a step method and I don't have a tween machine plugin, which I have tween machine right here. All I'd have to do is hit this button and haha, done. Same thing. This is the easy alternative. So plugin free. So let's go through here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this foot just because I know what it basically needs to have happen. So let's look at our translates. And I want this to slam into the ground a little bit. So we get a nice weight in there. So basically I'm just going to make sure that everything is kind of not easing in to that last position there. And we're getting this nice arc right through here. Good. So basically just that. Nothing too complex. Can maybe bring this up just a little bit more here, just so we can get a little bit more of a drop down there. But I kind of, let's push that a little bit. I want that negative space between the legs. And then we don't see the foot, but if I was animating the foot, I would also make sure that this is reaching back a little bit further so we can get that nice contrast in the foot there. So something like that. I've seen people doing blocking in linear mode. I know you normally do splines from the start. Yeah, so it's the same thing. Some people prefer linear because linear doesn't have any ease in and out. It's just one pose to the next, straight line. This makes sure that as you're putting in your breakdowns and whatnot, there is nothing that Maya is doing for you. You have to do all of the work yourself. And honestly, I do like that. I'm just so used to working in splines and already having, or I should say auto tangents specifically, having those kind of automatic ease in and out that I can use to build off of is really just a different preference on how you want to deal with the in-betweens. So one is not better than the other. They're just different. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So I'm noticing now that I've straightened the hips are just moving a little bit too far here. So I want to move them back a little bit, keep that a little straighter. And then maybe just a little bit further back. Now it starts to go over, but I want that to ease out a little bit more. So let's go there. Okay. Now the translate Y is almost going to be at the peak here. So whoop. So we get that little ease and then up and out. And then I can drag the chest a little bit so that the head and chest kind of come up faster there at the very end. So something like that. Do you like building in the core out to the fingers when you block? Yeah. If you start the opposite way, so fingers in, what you're going to end up doing is redoing a lot of motion. As you can see, if I move the hips here, it moves everything. So if I start moving the fingers and trying to get all my fingers in a nice arc, and then go down to the hips and move that, all of my arcs are going to change. So I try to work my way through the pose and kind of start from the hips first, get that core motion. It doesn't have to be perfect, but at least kind of thought out so that as I go through, I'm not redoing a ton of work. Okay. There. And how do I choose your key poses? There's a lot of different methods. I actually did a whole demo on analyzing reference and choosing your poses, trying to figure out what your blocking is. If you go into the videos section, so click on the avatar and go into videos, there's a video on analyzing reference. And that's how to take your reference, push it so that it's not just copying your reference. One thing here is this pose is getting really straight and boring, so I'm gonna have to push that a lot. But yeah, there's a whole video on that if you're interested. Basically, I look for extremes, so high points. So let's say for a punch, the extreme would be the furthest out. Oh, no worries, no need to apologize. I know that there's a lot of videos and a lot of people here are new, so they wouldn't know what videos there are. The only reason I mention it is I think I spent like an hour just going on a deep dive on exactly how I choose every pose. So it's just going to be a more in-depth answer than the like 10 minutes I give here, if you're interested. But basically it's looking for extremes, looking for things like contact. So if I'm going to contact the floor, or if my hand's going to like slap my face, I look for the contact frame because that's a moment that I know has to happen. So it's kind of looking for these key moments in your shot and using those as kind of guide points. So for example, a walk, you're looking for your contact poses, your contact poses, your ups and downs. So that's the highest point of the hips, the lowest point of the hips, And then good reference points like the passing point where your legs are passing past each other. It just kind of gives you these blocking points that you can use to build the walk, and you're not missing any important information. So it's taking that concept and just going for the whole body or for an action shot. Let's see. You really love they shared Carrie's gifts at the end of the stream. Yeah, it's so good. I have shown Caveman Cameron. I should show it again. It's so worth it. I love Caveman Cameron. I think that was the very first animation like from the Twitch stream, or actually any animation ever that uses our voices for it. So that was so cool to see. Let's see, if a reference doesn't show the foot, how do you know where to place it? Knowing your body mechanics, that's the big one. So you just need to know what's going to happen. Even if you don't actually see the foot, if you know what's happening, you've studied body mechanics enough, you know how it's going to arc, where it's going to contact, all of that stuff. And looking for the contact, it's just kind of looking for when the leg kind of straightens. You can see it right here, how the leg is moving, and then it stops right there. Between these two poses, see how that leg straightens and the rotation changes? That means the foot's contacted the ground. So the contact is happening right here on frame 59. Or more specifically, when it flattens down. Since the toes have to touch down first, it's probably happening right here on frame 57, 58. That's where the toes are actually touching the ground. So it's learning how to analyze the reference. Hopefully that gives you a somewhat of an answer. Okay, let's see here. So with this pose, I know I'm going to be going into this reversal here. And right now you can see we've got a C curve, another C curve here. We've got this reversal. And in the middle, our pose is just getting really straight and boring. I want to push that. Otherwise, this animation is just going to be dull. So I'm going to try to keep this C curve in the body a little bit more. Try to keep that in place so that we get a better, let's get that twist in there, a better, more dynamic feeling to the pose. And then here, let's get these keys back into place there. It really doesn't matter too much if they're offset, honestly. It is just personal preference. So I want this C curve there so that we get this really nice, you feel that shift in the chest there and that stomach pushing out there. Otherwise, it just kind of slowly morphs. So something like that. I think I can push my rotate X even more. Really push that through so we get that nice wham. Just snap up there. And something else that's going to help is I can push the leg just a little further back here. So we start getting this reverse angle, and this is going to get me that S shape, the S curve. So we're getting a C, S, reverse C, or sorry, reverse C, S, C curve. So that's just going to help exaggerate that line of action even more. Hey, and there you go. Mr. Johan, thank you so much for the link there. Hopefully that helps. And I just remembered there was a question about FKIK. Let me answer that before I totally forget about it again. I'm so bad at getting distracted. If you're trying to switch between FK and IK, the biggest thing that helps, at least for me, is two things. They are not constant. These are not things that you always have to do, but I tend to do these the majority of the time. So the first one is, as you are switching, make sure to switch over one frame. So don't have the switch happen over like 5 or 6 frames. If you have like FK on frame 99 and you want to switch to IK, the switch should be on frame 100. Like it's just 99 FK, 100 IK. You do it one frame. This avoids any weird counter animation and just weird stuff going on. This is not always the case, but in most cases, this is just going to help clean things up. Second thing, whenever you do the switch, always try to do it during a fast motion. So if the character is moving their hand across, and maybe I'm going to move my hand across and put my fingers on a wall or something, so FK here, IK over there, do not do the switch. Hey, Mr. Johan, thanks so much for the sub. Or sorry, Mr. Taco. Jeez, thank you so much for the gift. Oh, that's so awesome. Mr. Johan, your kindness was repaid. That was instant karma. Good karma. There you go. That's so cool. Thank you so much, Mr. Taco. Okay, lost my train of thought there. I'm going to have the hand go and then contact. And we're going to have a switch in between this moment. From this to there's going to be a switch. You do not want to do the switch here when the hand is easing out. The reason for that is it's going to be harder to disguise a pop, because if it's moving slowly, you'll see that kind of switch, that janky little tick of the pose change, and it's going to be very hard to match, especially if you don't have an FK-IK snap tool. You don't want to do it here as well, because once again, the hand is easing in and you're going to notice that little jankiness. And this is going to be even worse because the fingers are contacting the table or the wall, which means that you're really going to feel that change. You're going to have a point of reference to compare it to. Instead, you want to do the switch as it's moving in the middle at its fastest point. Even if it's before the actual contact and just happens kind of halfway between, it's better to do that switch halfway and then just animate the hand in IK the rest of the way than to wait for the IK to contact. Because the faster the motion, the easier it is to switch. If your hand's doing this, you're not going to notice a little tiny jick of the hand in a fast motion. And it's easier to match that spacing and get it nice and clean, and no one will know. So that's the two big things. You want to do it over one frame, typically. Not all the time, but typically. And then do it whenever the hand is, or hand, limb, whatever, is moving at its fastest, because then it's easiest to disguise. So those are the main two tips that I would have. If you have... There's other scenarios that there are things that we can do, but they're more specific and it would require a little bit more of a demo to show and explain a little bit better. But hopefully that helps. Okay. I'm just kind of watching the animation here, see how it feels. So I like how this feels really snappy right there. One thing I'm not a fan of is the leg feels a little too snappy. So I want the back to feel snappy, not the foot. Okay. So we've got the spine working. Let's get the head kind of working. In this case, I want the head to almost lead the body upwards a little bit. I'm going to start pushing the neck up a little. When you're pushing the neck up, I could exaggerate it. So, we're animators. We must exaggerate. That's one of the big things. Like that. Don't do that. The moment that you start getting a bend in the back here, where you can see that line of the neck, and then there's kind of this weird angle to the back, that's broken the neck. He's dead now. You want to keep a nice flow. Imagine the curvature of the rib cage, even though we can't see it. Imagine we can see that roundness of the rib cage. The neck should flow out of that. For very quick motions, we can exaggerate that once in a while, but be very careful with it. The moment you start getting that weird bend, that neck it would technically be broken. And since I'm kind of focused on doing a little bit more of a realistic shot here, not super cartoony, I need to be very careful of that. Instead, I will get a little bit more of the motion through the actual head tilt than the neck. And then let's actually tilt the head back here a little bit so we get that weight of the skull kind of whipping around. And then is going to make that next moment just a little bit bigger. Now, I'm not doing anything with the face here. That's just for time's sake. If I was to do the face, we'd be here all day, which I wouldn't mind. But this is more just about going through the whole process. At this stage, I would probably be doing a little bit of a facial pass too. Right now, I just have no face stuff at all. But that's kind of my personal preference. Some people wait until longer. Others will do a full face pass right away. It really just kind of depends on what your preference is, or even more specifically, what the studio's preference is. Some studios don't want to see too much of the face too early. That's usually like very dedicated animation studios. So they do 100% animation stuff, and they work with animation directors, things like that. If you're doing more VFX style or working with directors that kind of do more live action stuff, you're most likely going to be trying to do everything, or a little bit of everything, because they have a harder time understanding the kind of blocking process and all of that stuff, which is totally fair. It's, if you're not trained in, oh, this is, why does it look so janky? Well, it's in step mode, but why is it so janky? And I'm sure for anyone who's shown like family members or like friends their animation and is still in step mode, there will be a time where you're gonna get that, but why isn't it smooth? I was like, oh, no, it's still in step mode. It's still in blocking. I haven't gotten to that yet. Yeah, but maybe you should smooth it out. It's like, but no, that's not the point here. That's just normal. And you'll have that with directors as well, where some directors, they just can't see it because that's not what they're used to. They're used to seeing live action actors going through the motions and understanding the physicality that way. So we have to be very careful of who we're showing this to, who's our audience, as we're doing these kind of breakdowns. And when they suggest adding models and characters and explosions, exactly. And that's why you have at some studios like ILM and VFX studios, they actually have a library of just effects cards. So basically sprites of explosions, of engines like thrusters and stuff that they can just put into their shots. It's just an image plane with like a little animated GIF, basically, that you can put in and then use to add effects very quickly, which works really well. I actually did a demo on that a while back, and it just makes it really nice and interesting. Okay. I'm missing the Minecraft head. Yeah, I was thinking of doing it. It's just, it's so big. But we'll see. We might add it in just for the fun of it. Okay. So I'm looking at the breakdowns and I've got the body pretty much working now. But one thing I'm noticing is the arms. See here how the elbow is kind of leading the action here? I don't like that. The elbow should stay almost in place. And the reason for this is that we want the body to feel like it's kind of moving out, the leg as well. And then the elbow will pop out afterwards. So I'm going to try to keep that elbow kind of in place here. It's not going to be perfect because the body is shifting around. And then here, let's add a little twist. Let's start straightening out that arm as well. So we get that nice contrasting motion as the body is going back. the hand is arcing outwards. And then here, kind of the same thing. I'm going to bring that back a little bit. So we're changing one of our key poses. That's totally fine. So that we can build this arc in there. So I want that hand to arc out and around. And I think part of what's going to help here is just kind of pushing the shoulder down and around like that. So, building that in there. Maybe we'll move this back just a little bit. There we go. I'm just watching the angle of the hand. That's better. Okay. So we've got that. Kind of want to push this out a little bit more. I want that elbow silhouette to really pop. So let's kind of push that a little bit more there. It's a lot of back and forth. You're watching the hand, trying to get that arc, and then you watch the elbow. Okay, gotta get that arc in there. I feel like the shoulder is popping back a little bit. Let's add a little drag and then have it come back here. Okay. So we've got that. Let's do the other arm. So the other arm, same thing. Everything's kind of getting pulled back at the same time. And I want to try and ease some of this. Getting this contrasting motion in there. So that hand here, I'm going to pull this back just a little bit more so that as it comes down, we keep the hand almost moving screen left. Comes through. What's happening here is that the hand is popping up, which is ruining my arc. So I just need to lower this here. There we go. So now it's continuing to move screen left as the elbow goes screen right. Now it's not perfect. It's kind of janky. I need to tweak my spacing of the wrist. If I look at the wrist here, you can see how the wrist is starting to go up right there. So I need to just tweak that as well. That's better. So we've got that. I can exaggerate it later. The other hand, the arc is coming out. Then here it should kind of come in a little bit. The elbow doesn't really move that much. I'm not trying to copy my reference. This is not what I'm doing. I'm trying to build in these little details that I have in my reference, and then from there I can exaggerate a little bit more. But the big thing that I'm trying to do is I want the head to be the main focus. As I go through here, my eyes should be focused on the head, not on anything else. Whereas before, my eyes were bouncing between the arms, the elbow, the leg, all of it. Now here, the hand kind of freezes right there. I just need to lower this a little bit. Maybe bring it down here. So that the arc keeps moving down. Now this is a little too linear right there. So let's ease that just a little bit more. Okay. So one thing I'm noticing is, see how both hands kind of feel perfectly twinned right here? I'm going to tweak my spacing. So now this hand is going to favor the top right here. The joy of being an animator, looking at every single little thing. So we want the spacing of that hand to be just a little higher, and then go faster down here. Whereas the other hand might come down just a little faster earlier and then ease in. There we go. So that creates just a little bit of an offset. So it's not both going down, it's that, like doom doom. Let's see. There was a question here I missed. Are there any tips on how you help visualize arcs when you don't have a lot of experience? You can use the editable motion trails in Maya. So that's under the animation menu set, under visualize, create editable motion trails. So you can just turn that on. You can also just use the grease pencil and draw them out. This is actually my favorite way of doing it. So as I'm looking at my arcs, I could just take a grease pencil and let's kind of go through and let's track, for example, I want to track the knuckle here. I would just go through and draw these points like so. Now I can go through, and this is why I love this. I can go through, let's turn on ghosting, and it's kind of hard to see here. But we see the arc. Let's actually go here as well. So it's going forward, down, and then right here it goes straight down and then across right there. So my arc is doing this, this, this. I don't like that. I want to smooth that out. Okay. With a normal editable motion trail, you'd now have to try and move it into place to get into the right spot. But with drawing it out, I can just go, okay, I don't want the arc here. Nah. I want it here. Right there. Maybe actually right there. Or since I'm actually easing, I want it to go down fast here. Let's actually put it out here. So we get that nice spacing, but we get a nice clean arc as well. Now, I can just match that. There we go. And my arc is good. It's manual in the sense that you don't just get the, oh, I'll just click a control, editable motion trails. Ta-da, here's my whole arc. Which is nice. But the thing with drawing it out is you can literally just go, okay, there's the issue with my arc. I want it to be here. Match it. Done. That's it. You get your spacing, you get your arc. Everything is great. I know a lot of animators to this day, they still use this, or even some of them, this is the old school way of doing it. You just take a dry erase pencil. You want to make sure you get one that's I forget if it's no, it's wet erase marker, and they will draw on their screen and mark it out with a pencil on their screen still, because it is that efficient. It works really well. So I like to use a grease pencil tool because I'm always worried about drawing on my screen. But yeah, it's really good. Usually how much time an animator get to block and polish an animated movie production? There is no answer to that. It really depends about the production, how far along it's in, what's the budget. There's so many different things. Usually it's yeah, there's no answer. It really just depends. The complexity of the scene. Is it just a character shot like this? Is it a full character shot? Is it a 2-character shot? What's the character doing? What's the rig like? So some rigs are going to be super light. Some are going to be super heavy and take more time to animate. So there is no answer, unfortunately. And there's not even like on average it's this, because the range can be huge. It could be a full shot in a week, or you could have 2 months. Or I know some animators who worked on one shot for like 6 months. So it's whatever it needs to get done. Okay. So looking at our arcs here, I think this is reading pretty well. And now we're starting to describe this motion a little bit better. We come in here, then come out. I feel like this motion here is still a little too even, specifically in the head. So let's just use our grease pencil tool. So if I go in here, make sure I have my control selected. And this is what I love about blue pencil, is you can have a control selected and still be using the blue pencil. So right there, you can see how that head is right in the middle. That's what's making it feel boring. So I need to push this. So there's a few different ways I can do this. I can push the spine, which I don't really want to do because that's going to kind of exaggerate the spine too much, and I want that snap back. So I'm going to try and raise the head just a little bit more. So take the neck, push it back just a bit. See how far I can get to with that. Take the head and just angle it back. There we go. Now we really feel the head leading the action. And our spacing is just a little offset now. So instead of right in the middle, we get this. You feel that change there? So again, track your arcs. This is something I don't usually do on stream because I tend to forget about it as I'm talking about it. But it is something I always do when I'm working on my shot. Oh, Nick Kondo as a mentor? Nice. So all the Spidey crawling on the wall in Spider-Verse took 3 months to finish. Yeah, definitely. That would be a long shot. With all the constraints and the setup and the planning. That's the other thing. A lot of time in shots, it's not always working on it. Sometimes it's just trying to figure it out. So you're animating on a shot and you are trying to just figure out, what the heck am I gonna do? I'm like the Spider-Verse shot. You've got to have, what was it, 5 characters crawling on the wall together, constrained together in some way so that they don't just move randomly. And there has to be a flow to it. And there's just so many things. So you might be spending half of your time that you are given on the shot just trying to understand, how am I gonna do this? And that's totally normal. I'm just adding a little drag to the wrist here. Does the head always lead the body? No. Sometimes the hips will lead, sometimes the chest will lead, sometimes the head will lead, sometimes the shoulder leads. It really just depends. In this case, because I want this kind of snap up, I want the head to kind of be the one that's pulling back, and then the body goes up. That's just in this case here. Sometimes, for example, as he's coming down, I have the body kind of doing a little bit more of a leading action here. It's kind of more tied together. Other times it could be the shoulder, it could be the hips. It really just depends on the action. So for example, a more snaky action, the head will lead. A more kind of displays the action, the body leads. So it just gives a different feeling to things. So if you're trying to do a predatory thing, you really want like a cat chasing after its prey, you want the head to be the thing that leads and the body just follows along. So we've got that. Oh, no worries. The big thing with animation is that there really is no absolutes. That's the cool part, and also the very frustrating part is that we just don't have absolutes. We will have moments that are kind of, what would be the right word? There's certain rules or certain tendencies, but there's nothing set in stone. Even the 12 principles of animation, which you would think are the golden rules that we must follow, we must put these into all of our animation. No, they are guidelines, and they are good for, what would be the right word? They are good as a guidepost, and they will make sure that our animation works. But there will be times when you want to remove one of them to make a different feeling to the shot. So yeah, there's just no solid rules in animation. So let's add another breakdown here. I'm not sure how many more I'll add. Maybe we'll at least do one more here before I have to call it, because I've got my own assignments to work on. I'm texturing something in ZBrush, which is really fun and also very frustrating, because I spent 3 days doing a version of it and it didn't work. So I've got to catch up now. The joy of working on an assignment. And this is like, the reason I mention this is it happens to everyone. Like, if you guys are working on an assignment, many of you are an animation mentor or learning animation, you're going to do an assignment and it didn't work out. You spent days on this and it sucks, and it just, you didn't succeed. And it's very easy to kind of go, well, I'm terrible. Why am I doing this? I should just quit. That's normal. I've been doing this kind of stuff for years and years and years now. And I was working on some texturing on my model, and I spent 2 or 3 days on it, trying to do all the UVs, trying to figure out how to get it into this program to make everything work. And it didn't work out. It just, it was a learning experience. I hadn't done that workflow before, and yeah, it didn't work. And it was frustrating in the sense that, like, all that time wasted. But I didn't let it get me down, because I realized, and this is again years of experience that allow me to realize this, because this definitely, I would have taken it badly when I was a student. I would have thought I was just a terrible student and I failed, and I would be so depressed. It's a learning experience. I learned what not to do. Next time I do a model like that, I'm not going to make that same mistake. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to approach it differently. I'm going to do it the right way, right away. And at least now I know what not to do in the future. So it sucks that I spent 3 days doing something that won't turn out, but at the same time, it wasn't wasted. Nothing is wasted as long as you learn from it. That's the big thing. If I just did it and went, oh, well, that didn't work. Oh, well, let's try again. And I didn't take the time to go, okay, what didn't work? Why didn't it work? Like, I took just a few hours to go, okay, where did I go wrong with this? What was wrong with my thinking originally? Originally, it seemed like it all made sense. I would do the UVs in this way, and I would export them in this way, and there'd be this whole process. And it made sense in my head at the beginning. It didn't work. So where did I go wrong? And I took that time, and now I know better how it works, and I actually know the programs better than I did before. So it's like I didn't lose anything. Let's see. I spent 2 days trying to figure out I spent 2 days trying to figure out the look for my rig, and today Maya decided to punish me and the file corrupted. Oh no! So I had to do the whole thing, and I did in 2 hours. Yeah. So I had the same thing like a while back. I think I mentioned this on stream. I was working on the model, and I was working in ZBrush. I finally got the face to be like okay, where it's like, okay, now it's looking like a face and not a monster. And I spent 4 hours on it. And then ZBrush crashed. And I lost everything. 4 hours of work gone. Or it didn't crash. Something happened where the file got corrupted. And I lost 4 hours of work. I had to go back to the previous version. And no recover, unfortunately. Not for that. Then I did the file again. 4 hours. Finally got the face back to where it was. I saved the scene, closed it, went to bed, came back the next morning, found out that ZBrush saved the wrong file. It saved the wrong tool, which meant that everything that I had done was gone. So I had to take the version that was the original again and reblock it again. And it sucked. But every time was faster, and the final version that I got is way better than the version that I lost, because I figured out what I did wrong every single time, and I tried to keep improving it. It's still frustrating. Like, you shouldn't feel bad about feeling frustrated that you lost work, that you have to redo stuff. That's okay. But don't let it be a huge negative. Like, even in a studio, you're going to go to your director sometimes and you're going to be working like a full day on your shot and go, here you go. This is my shot. What do you think? And they're just going to go, nah, change it all. Like, literally just cut it all, start over. This is not what I want. And as an animator, we can be like sad about it. But one, you have to be professional. You can't go, no, we should keep it this way. I put a lot of work into this. You don't do that. You just go, okay, cool. I see your point. And then you walk out, and then you have a little bit of a, like, take some time to breathe. Just all of that work gone out the window. Why? Scream to the heavens for a little bit. And then once you got that out of your system, go back and dive in with the enthusiasm you had before and make it epic. Take what the director wanted and make it as good as you can. There's just no room for feeling sorry for ourselves. It's not that it's bad to feel that way, but it's not productive. And we can learn so much more and progress so much more if we take that as a way to learn and grow as an artist. So embrace mistakes. Once you learn that, the art world becomes so much more fun because we do mistakes all the time. Yeah, exactly. A bit of time to cry, go for an ice cream break, get some fluffy toys, scream into a pillow, and then once you're done, jump back in with the enthusiasm you had before. So it's just part of the process and never goes away. So we need to learn to deal with it in a productive way and not in a way that is going to just make us miserable for the rest of our career, which this is animation. We're dealing with cartoons. Like, what better job is there? I just like remind yourself, you are working with cartoons. You are animating things. Like, whatever cartoon you grew up with that inspired you, whether it was like DuckTales or maybe Adventure Time or Steven Universe, whatever it is, you're doing this. You're working on this. The Disney films that you grew up with, you're part of this now. That's a happy thing. And yes, we're gonna fail, but so did all the 9 old men and the masters. They failed who knows how many times. We only see their one success. And this is the big thing with art, is whenever you see a finished piece of art, keep in mind that you are seeing the one success versus the hundreds of failures. So be very aware of that. As artists, we can't get locked into this. We must succeed at every single turn. That's unhealthy, unproductive, and you're just going to start hating your own stuff if you do that. How much sleep do you usually get? I think you work a lot. This week has been terrible. I think I've averaged, on the nights that I have slept, I've averaged 4 hours. I did the 24-hour stream last Saturday, and then I had a 17-hour work day where like I sat down and I got up from my desk 17 hours later. That was on Thursday. And then the days in between have been like 4 or 5 hours along with some naps here and there. So, not healthy. Don't do that. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm just swamped with work. And it's just kind of crazy how things are happening right now. But normally I try not to do that. Normally I try very hard to get full 8 hours or 7 hours. I find 8 hours is a little too long for me. I get more tired because of it. But be healthy about your work habits. For me, in the next 3 weeks or so, I'm actually going to be changing a lot of my scheduling to hopefully fix things. But I have to kind of wait until the production that I'm working on is done. So, yay! 3 more weeks and I should have a little bit more free time. So far, since the start of the year, I've had 1.5 days off. So, yeah, I had 1 day off where I took the whole day, just totally off, didn't work, and then a half a day, which was at the end of February. So it's been very busy. 17 hours. No, I did get up, like just walk around. Did I eat? No, I didn't eat in those 17 hours because I ended up working through the night. I started working at 9 p.m. and I finished working at... Oh no, I did have breakfast, a small breakfast in between 2 projects. It was 9 at night till like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. I contacted someone to create an illustration. Nice, that's so cool. I really thought she did a subpar job for her talent, and I tried to tell her I wanted her to go a different direction. She went nuts on me. That's kind of a... What would be the right word? Not a hazard, but when we're commissioning work, it's tricky. There's this kind of balance between the artist and the contractor. And in general, the biggest note that I would give on stuff like that, and this is from having done commissions, also from ordering commissions for different projects, and this is just kind of something for all of you to keep in mind. Always be very upfront of what it's going to entail and how many revisions you get, what happens if you're not pleased with the result. Be upfront with that right away. It really just helps to communicate. And this is kind of from like studio experience as well. When you're in a studio, you have to communicate. If you are not communicating, you're going to run into so many issues. So you have to let your directors know what's going on. You have to let your supervising animators know. You have to basically, you're communicating with everyone. Because the last thing you want is for someone to assume something incorrectly. If that happens, usually it's going to be on us as the animator, because part of our job is to make sure we communicate. But that's just kind of in general. Let's see what's happening here. I feel like the body's going too far screen right here. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. So Same thing as before. I'm just going through all of my curves here, making sure I'm easing things in correctly. So here, this is actually going to keep going this way for a little bit. So this is where you can really see how the breakdown is very different than what Maya gave us. Maya put the key over here between these two. I'm taking this and pushing it over top. So it's going to overshoot here before twisting. So that's going to make this twisting motion right here much bigger. So really watch your breakdowns. Okay. So he comes through. I want, as he puts weight onto this hip, I kind of want it to hold a little bit longer. That's why I'm favoring it here. It's still going to come down because of the motion he's got, but I do want it to have a bigger top right there as that leg lifts up. Making sure the feet stay on the ground, that's very important. I can probably raise this foot up just a little bit, so I get a little bit of a bend in that leg there. We start getting that. Even though we're not seeing the feet, you can see that I'm actually animating them. It's going to be just more interesting that way. I don't have to polish it, but I still want to make sure that since we can see the legs, that should be there. How to tell your family that you're failing and you will eventually be perfect, but you need time? That's always strange, or that's tricky, because it's just kind of the mentality that a lot of people have, is that you always have to succeed. And this just, it's something that as people in most countries, it's something we learn right at school, is if you get a C on a test, that's not good enough. You need to get an A. If you fail a test, you didn't study hard enough. You didn't succeed well enough. And there's this kind of idea that success is good, failure is bad, and there's no in between. And there's no kind of idea that failure and success kind of go hand in hand. And you need one, or you need kind of both of them together. If you just have one, I just noticed that all of these are offset, which is going to bug me, but I'll fix that later. If you just have one or the other, neither work. If you're just succeeding, normally what that means is that you're either getting lucky or you're just hiding your failures very well. And this creates, again, a false image where, oh, look at this person, they're succeeding, they're doing so well. Yeah, but have you seen the hours that they put in, the days and days of studying? No. So there's this kind of fake feeling of, oh, they're just talented, natural talent. It's, again, the same thing with artists. Like, you see someone who does beautiful art, and it's like, oh, wow, they're so talented. Man, just that natural talent. I wish I could do that. Without realizing that the reason that they're succeeding like that is that they have put in the hours and hours and hours to make it succeed. So, again, there's that disconnect. And as a society, it's hard to kind of change that perspective. The best thing to do is just to talk with, especially like your family, just kind of talk about it and go, explain it kind of like what we did here, where like success isn't just always doing it right the very first time. There are layers of success, and sometimes you have to fail before you kind of get it in the end. But it is hard, and it kind of goes with a lot of different things. I've had, and sometimes people just don't get it. Like, artistic fields are tricky. I've had family who for years did not get what Cameron and I did. Not just the animation part of it, but like the whole teaching and mentoring. A good example of that is when Cameron and I teach, and like same thing on the stream here, we do not want to hide anything. So this is, as we're teaching here and doing our demos and whatnot, we are trying to give all of the tips that we learned out. So there is no like hidden secret of animation that we're not telling you because we're going to keep it for ourselves so that we stay on top. Ha ha ha. No, all of this that we're showing is everything we know. Every little tip and trick and little detail we are going to share with you. And our family for a long time thought we were idiots for it. Because if you tell everyone how to do it, how are you going to stay on top? They're going to take your secrets and take your job, and you're going to be out of a job. And why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing this. And that comes from their experience in the past, where if you worked on kind of your own thing, it was your thing. You kept it for yourself and you didn't share it with people because you have to be like at the top of the industry, or like you don't share your secrets with your competitors. And it took many, many years before they realized why we were doing it, or like the benefit of it. And it's not like so much a benefit to us, but just like the reasoning behind. And the thing that actually got them to realize it was a bunch of AM students, a whole bunch of our students, made a video for Cameron and I. Maybe I'll show it on stream at some point. They made a video for Cameron and I, thanking us for everything that we did for them. And they even paid for us to go to Disneyland, which was just super generous of them. It's like, that was beyond amazing. Like the fact that they would do that, get together and do that for us, was just like, we no words. And we did go. We actually went with them. A whole group of them were all going to Disneyland, and they paid for us to join them. And it was fun. It was so much fun. But what ended up happening is we showed that video to our family, and suddenly they got it. Suddenly they understood, like, oh, this is why you're helping them. It's not to give away your secrets and to kind of, what would be the right word? How do I want to phrase this? It's not that we're going to lose a job because of this. It's to help these people, to bring happiness and get these people to achieve their dream. All of these people are trying to have their dream come true, to work at Disney, to work at Pixar, to just work on animation. And the fact that we could help someone achieve their dream, and then you could see how much they appreciated that went to that really helped them finally realize, oh, it's not just about you. This is not an industry where it is like cutthroat, and there's politics, of course. I'm not going to say that it's all rainbows and unicorns. But we work in a very interesting industry, because it is all about the work that you do and the people that you help along the way, and genuine help, which is very different than almost any other industry. And I love it because of it. There we go. Getting that anticipation in the arms there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And yeah, Noelle, yeah, that was, I miss going to Disneyland with everyone. It was so much fun. Let's see, I have to catch up with the chat because I kind of got on a whole rambling tangent there. But hopefully that makes sense. Like, sometimes your family's not going to get it, and it's not a bad thing. It's not like you can't, it doesn't make them bad people, and this just kind of goes just for everyone in general. It's just that animation and the arts are such a different field and such a different kind of area compared to a lot of other industries that sometimes there's just no comparison that they can make from their experience. So it's yeah, it's just very important. You should do a sleep stream. One day I'll get some sleep, but that's for future me. See, catching up with the chat. You'll make a million bad drawings before you make one good one. So best start drawing. Exactly. And it's the hard part about the animation industry, or just arts in general, and this is what I love about Twitch, is for a long time you did not get to see the failures that went into a drawing or the practice that went into a drawing. Now with Twitch, you can see, and like this just goes with the internet in general, you tend to see a lot more of the failures. You tend to see people uploading, here's my sketches that I did. Here's just a page full of sketches and doodles. You see Twitch streams where it's like, okay, let's try something out. And oh God, not only does it take a long time, but hey, sometimes it fails. It's part of the process, and failure is important. As long as you're learning from it. If you are just making mistakes and then going, well, that didn't work out, and moving on and not thinking about what you need to change, you're just going to keep making the same mistakes. It's not going to get you anywhere. Okay. Isn't that a ban to Twitch, on Twitch to sleep? Yeah, you can't sleep on Twitch, which I think came from a lot of people doing like 24-hour streams and stuff, and then accidentally falling asleep and then just streaming for like 8 hours while they were asleep. Okay, the hands here are moving too much. As I'm going through this, like between these two poses, I feel like the hands are just, there's just too much motion. I'm gonna bring those back up here. I want the head to move, maybe this hand, but the other hand should be a little bit more subtle. Okay, that's better. Every single success is built on a mountain of failure. Very well said. Okay, I'm not a fan of this wrist here. It feels weak, so I'm going to straighten that out. The hand pose needs to be tweaked, but I don't want to touch the hand poses too much just yet. I can do a pass on the hand poses later. Okay. So we've got this working. I feel like the body is just a little too rotated back, so I'm gonna kind of push it forward here. Kind of push this line of action right through here. And this kind of drag. Essentially what I'm trying to get is the feeling that he's puffing up his chest. Getting the chest to lead up versus the stomach. So something a little bit more like that. I think I can push the translate Y of the hips as well a little higher. So we kind of feel that upwards arc. The head, let's kind of get that angled up a little bit more. That's going to help that arc as well. Let's really push it. Okay. I feel like I might be moving him too far screen left. So I'm gonna exaggerate the ease out here just a little bit. I want this moment here to really pop where he punches and there's gonna be just a ton of energy here. So I want to keep that feeling kind of weighted on that side. Okay. I think I have enough time to add one more breakdown right in here. And then we'll have to call it, unfortunately. Just because I've got a bunch of work that I need to get through. Otherwise, I'd be doing this all day. Which one day I do want to do. When I have more time, maybe in the next like 3 weeks, once my schedule starts to open up again, I might try to do like, maybe not like a 24-hour stream, but maybe like a 6 to 8 hour stream where we can really just dive in and get some work done. Okay, I think I'm going to add a breakdown right here. Technically, I'm going to put this whole section on 2s. Well, at least I should have one more breakdown right here. Because of the foot coming off the ground, I want to get a little bit more detail in there. But for now, I'm just going to not worry about it. That's a problem for future me. See, future me hates past me. Past me is a terrible person. Awful, awful person. I mean, they're the worst. Future me is super nice. I mean, future me always wants to do extra work, always wants to just go the extra mile and do all my work for me. They're so nice. Past me sucks. Always putting off their work onto me. It's terrible. Past me is so considerate. I wish past me was considerate. Past me is a jerk. Always putting off their work till later. I mean, come on. Don't they care? Angle this. So here we really get that hip to lead in here. Actually, the hip's going to go past here. So you can see how the hip overshoots right there. It goes up and then down. So I want to get that same feeling in there. It's going to throw the whole body out of whack here for a little bit. That's fine. This is the fun part of like in-betweening, is when you start getting the pose in place and it's just like, it's funky and everything looks broken. It's like, oh no, what have I done? This is where, at least for me, the graph editor is helpful because it reminds me that no, this is how it should move. I'm doing this for a reason. And I can kind of build things in a little bit more. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I just want to see at what point the leg is bending. I'm going to drop this down and I'm going to just turn the knee so we can see the bend a little bit more. This is going to help us push that line of action. Okay, I think that's the hips. Translate X, easing in there. Let's see. I would do a 12-hour stream. The problem with a 12-hour stream is even when my schedule is open, I still do have work. So I don't know if I'd have 12 hours consistently that I'd be able to just focus on something. Unless Cameron and I can do co-streams and then we can kind of drop in and out. That would work. And then we could do longer streams. But Pastbo is an awesome baker though. That's true. Pastbo did make some good cookies. And now, because of Pastbo, I do know how to make good cookies. So, but see, Pastbo could have been nice and made some cookies for current Bo. No, Pastbo had to be a jerk and not want to make cookies. And now I can't enjoy cookies and I have to make cookies for future Bo, which he's a nice guy and he deserves some cookies. But I mean, come on, current Bo wants some cookies too. Pastbo, see, I can put all my blame on Pastbo. He could have done so much more. I say it in jest, but in reality, don't hate your past self. It's easy to do, and for a long time I actually did always have kind of, how to put this, I resented myself for not doing more than I did. So for example, man, I should have started learning drawing earlier. I should have started doing so and so earlier. I could have done more, I could have been more at this point in my life, kind of thing. That's unhealthy. It's not going to help you become a better person by thinking that way. It's only going to make it so that you don't do it in the future. You're going to stagnate because of it. So try not to fall into that line of thinking if you can. Instead, appreciate what was going on in your life at the time and try to be kind with yourself. Think of it as if you had a friend who went through the same thing, how would you treat them? And that kind of is just my philosophy on life in general, is like, treat yourself like you would treat a friend. Be compassionate with them. You wouldn't tell your friend, oh man, you should have done better. Why didn't you do that better? You would tell them, no, it's okay. Like, you were going through some stuff, as long as it's like justified and you're not just being a jerk. But there's room to be compassionate with yourself. And you should be. You deserve it. And for example, just as an example, for me, 2017 was a very bad year. I say bad because it was just like a very, how do I want to say? Not a dark, well, I guess you could say, like, to be dramatic, it was a dark time. Things weren't going right for me. A lot of family stuff was going on, that, like, just health issues, things like that. And I really didn't get too much done. I think was it 2017 or 2016? I didn't get too much done. But I ended up reading the entire Discworld series. It's my favorite book series. I hadn't read it at that point, but then in that year, I read the entire series. I think it was like 52 books. It just goes to show you how much, like, I was not doing much else. I was doing work and reading books. That's it. I would work, then go to bed, and I would read a book. Sometimes I wouldn't even sleep. I would just read. It was a very unhealthy year. But I look back on it now and I'm happy. Not that it happened. Like, I'm not happy that my family had to go through what they did, and I had to go through that, and everyone else who had to deal with me at that time had to go through that. But I read the Discworld series, and it changed my perspective on a lot of things. I cannot underestimate, or I cannot overestimate. Would that be the right word? And Colo, hey, thank you so much for the sub. Turned out to be a long journey. Thanks for everything, and stop hating yourself. Aw, thank you so much. That self-hate is something I've seen a lot of us as artists. We all tend to do, which is really sad, because as artists, so many of us, without realizing it, are bringing happiness into other people's lives. And I see this with some of the artists that I follow. Like, they do such good work, such inspirational work, and they just hate their stuff so much. They cannot see any good in it, which is sad, because they bring so much happiness into, like, other people's lives. And as artists, it's very hard to see past that. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, like, looking back on 2017, I'm not, again, happy that all of that bad stuff happened, but the Discworld books literally changed my perspective on a lot of things. It made me, well, how would be the right word? Appreciate death, I guess you could say. Not in the sense of, like, oh yeah, we're gonna die, ha ha ha, like, the world's gonna burn. No, nothing like that. But death, if you've read the books, death is a character in the books. And the philosophy on that and how they handle it is just such a different way of looking at the world. And it really made me happier in a lot of ways, and made me, well, it's kind of like almost a psychology element to it. It's just a comedy series. If you've seen Monty Python, it kind of has that feeling to it. It's a Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. Highly recommended if anyone's interested. If you like fantasy and that kind of humor, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy kind of stuff, highly recommend it. But yeah, it's because of that year, I got to read such a good book and got to change my perspective on a lot of things in many super positive ways. And I have to appreciate that because it made me who I am now. So I wouldn't be who I am now without that dark year. And hopefully at least it makes me be able to empathize with people who are also going through that and kind of be able to give better advice for anyone who does go through something like that. So yeah, all of that to say, past us, as much as like I was joking about past me being a jerk, and he still is, he could have made me cookies. We should be compassionate with ourselves and not beat ourselves down just because we're not exactly where we want to be at this point. As long as we maybe start now, we're gonna get there. It's still a fun journey. We're gonna have fun along the way, meet some cool people, and just have an adventure. Okay, the hand here has to go up. That went on a really weird tangent that I was not expecting. But hopefully that made sense. See. I didn't get the job for Amazing Maurice with you mentioning Discord. Aw, that's a shame. Amazing Maurice, oh yeah, that's the Amazing Maurice and the, what was it, Talking Rats? Dancing Rats? Something like that. I like that book. That was really good. Just catching up with the chat here. I'm being reminded of that little comic you shared with the Angel and Devil Pigeon. Yeah, so I'm going to share this again. This is an artist. Oh, I forget their name. Luckily it's on the image. So I follow this artist. They do a lot of inspirational stuff. Where is it? I need to find this image. I used to have it on my desktop all the time. Now it's in a folder on my desktop because I stay organized. It also means that I can't find it anymore. Oops. Where the heck is it? Oh no. I thought I kept it right where I could see it all the time. Oh no. Dang it. I don't want to show it so bad. Oh wait, is it here? Nope, not that folder. Oh, dang it. Okay, I can't go too long on this or else people are just gonna watch me looking for a folder. Yay. What fun. Okay, I wonder if I can just find it. Oh wait, okay, yeah, there is that one. So this was another image that I have on my desktop. It's in the same folder. Wherever that folder is. But this is my mentality. I used to have this mentality of like, I should have done this so and so years ago. I should have started this years ago. And now this is the mentality that I have is, why don't I just start it now? In 10, like if I go and say, oh, I should have started this 10 years ago, and then I'd be talented, then I'd know how to draw. Well, how does that help anything? I still didn't start it 10 years ago, so it makes no difference. But if I say, I'm going to start it now, in 10 years, I'm going to look back and go, man, I'm glad I started that 10 years ago. So might as well start now. You're not going to be where you would like yourself to be if only I'd started sooner, but at least you'll be doing it. And this goes with anything. Like if you think, oh man, it's too late for animation. I'm going to use animation as an example just because we mostly do animation here. But I'm too old to start animation. I wish I had started when I was younger. Oh, I'm too old now. No, you're not. Start now. There's nothing stopping you. I know people who started when they were 60 and are now working in the industry. When I started animation when I was 24. And just only, hey, thanks so much for the sub. Aw, thanks so much. So I started animation when I was 24. And I thought I was too old. I thought, man, I missed my prime. I'm gone. Like, there's all of these kids going through, like 18, 20-year-olds going through. And it's like, why didn't I start sooner? I'm already too late. I missed the whole thing. I wasted my time. And like looking back on it now, it's like, man, stupid 24-year-old thinking like that's too late. It's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, young fool. But we all have that feeling. It's like, man, I wish I had started sooner. I just wish I had done it sooner. You're never too old. I know people who started in their 30s and are now working at like DreamWorks and Disney. Like I said earlier, I know someone who started in their 60s and are now working in the industry. You're never too old. The only thing stopping you is just not doing it. At any point, you can pick it up and do it. And this goes for anything. If you want to learn how to draw, start learning how to draw. If you want to learn how to bake, start learning how to bake. Just because you didn't do it when you were young doesn't mean you can't do it now. There's this kind of idea that you reach a certain age and you can't learn things anymore. No. To me, there is no age that you stop learning. What happens is that people tend to become complacent with not having to learn. So as a kid, you are constantly fed new information. You go to school, you're constantly being pushed new information. You go to college or university, or you start working at a job and you have to learn all of these things. So learning. And then like mid-20s-ish, as humans, we tend to not have anything that we need to learn anymore. We know the basics of everything and we start to coast. And what ends up happening is, at least from my experience and what I've seen with family and friends and whatnot, is there reaches this point where it's like the mental attitude changes. Instead of wanting to learn, you go, I don't have to learn this. I've done my learning. I have family who have this mentality of, I did my learning. Now I'm good. Oh, you want me to learn something else? No. Why? Why should I learn something? I already learned my stuff. And that's just weird to me, especially considering as an animator, we never stop learning. You will never stop learning until the very end of your career. And like, even then you'll keep going. It's not so much that we can't learn. It's that as humans, we tend to choose to stop learning and feel like, well, I'm old enough. I'm wise enough. People can't teach me things. I teach you things, which is not true. Like even in this Twitch stream, as much as I'm showcasing like things here, I'm still learning from you guys. Like for example, a few streams ago, someone showed me a different tool in Maya on how to snap objects together. Hey, I'm using that every day now. I've actually used it like 3 or 4 times since that stream just on my own work. And it's awesome. I'm learning here just as much. So never stop learning. And that kind of goes into this image here. You're never too old to start, and might as well start now. And then the other image, so thank you, Tara, for posting. Oh, dang it, it doesn't open. Aw, no, why won't it open? Okay, I can just Google it. I think it's Chuck is the artist. I always forget. So so it moved it over okay, cool. Let me find it on the stream Discord. Thanks for doing that, Tara. Oh, I don't even have Discord open. How could I? Discord doesn't auto start with my computer for some reason. No matter how many times I set it to, it just refuses to. So yeah. Okay. So let's find that here. Perfect. Awesome. So this I had on my desktop for a long time. I just had this saved, and every once in a while I would just open it. Yeah, Chuck draws things. Look for them on Twitch. On Twitter. They've got some good stuff. So I used to have this problem here. So the idea of denying how hard you worked on something. And I still have that problem. I can't take a compliment. I know that about myself. If people compliment me, it makes me nervous, which, like, I'm not saying this in the sense of, oh, like, you shouldn't compliment me because it hurts my feelings kind of thing. No, it's just, I don't know how to take a compliment. When someone gives me a compliment, my first instinct is to put myself down or to pass the compliment to someone else. So someone will say, hey, great work. And it's like, oh, nah, it's not that good. See, there's all these issues. Or, hey, great job. Oh, it's because Cameron helped me, or it's because of this. Like, I point the compliment to someone else who also helped me. And that's not a bad thing, to give credit to other people, because other people helped you along the way. But keep in mind that you also did the work. And like, I say this, and I know this is true because I can say it and I see it with everyone else, and I try to show this to other people. And then when it comes to me and someone gives me that compliment, I automatically go right back into that, like, defensive, nah, it's not great. Oh, there's issues. It's just a bad habit to get into. If people, and this is actually, we've gone so far off of breakdowns, but this is a good talk here. The reason this is bad is not just because it's bad for you mentally. So, for example, here, like that instinct to deny that you are talented, to deny that you did the work, to deny that you did something good. It's bad for you because you're constantly putting yourself down, and it becomes second nature to think that you actually aren't good. It's not to say that we should be going, look at me, I'm amazing, look at all the cool things I do, I'm fantastic. No, that is not the point. It's to take the compliment and realize that, okay, we might not like it, but someone else did. And the work that we put into this thing, again, as much as I might not like it, someone else liked it, and we made their day. And we should be proud of that. We should be happy about that. We can still try to improve. We can still see that we need improvement, but we shouldn't, again, hate ourselves for trying to achieve something. Yeah, exactly. If you say bad things about yourself enough, you begin to believe them. And for a long time, that was me, where I would never have a good thing to say about myself. I still have a hard time saying good things about myself or my work. Like I said, when people give me compliments, I have a hard time accepting them without my brain automatically going, oh no, I didn't do this, or nah, there's all these problems, like it's not that good really. Now, there's something else here. I said there were two things why this was bad. One is our own mental health, but the other thing is it creates bad relationships with other people. It's bad for them as well. And this is what started making me change more than anything, is realizing two things. One is how much I'm hurting other people by denying that, and also how much of a jerk I am by denying it. So let's take this example here, where someone looks at the work that you did and they say something, wow, you drew that, you're so talented, what's so cool. And if you go, nah, it's really not that good, twist that around. Think about it the other way. Not only are you putting yourself down, you're telling them that they have a bad eye for art, that they don't know what they're talking about. So as we say that, as we go, nah, it's not really that good, the subtext of that can be read as, you don't know what you're talking about, shut up. Which is really bad. Like if you put it into those words, what? No way would I say that. Like someone comes up to me and gives me a compliment, I go, oh, shut up, go away. That would be like, what a jerk. That's a horrible. But that's what we're doing. Subconsciously, we're putting ourselves down, but we're putting them down at the same time. And that is very important, especially in a workplace environment. That makes you the jerk at work without even realizing it. And in the animation industry, we don't want to do that. We want to be the helpful person. So you take the compliment. By taking the compliment, try to look at it this way. By taking the compliment, you're not putting yourself up onto a pedestal. You're putting them up on a pedestal. You're going, you've got a great eye for art. Or I trust your opinion. I'm going to listen to you. There you go. You're telling them that you trust them, that you believe that they are not liars. So that is very, very important. We have to be very careful of this like negative subtext that we put onto ourselves. It might feel like we're just hurting ourselves and no one else, but we are hurting everyone around us by doing that. And especially when it like builds and builds, like for me, I could never take a compliment. Someone would comment on my work and I would just put it down. Any positive thing, I would twist it around and be negative about it. And it took me a long time to realize that in a sense, I was being a jerk about it. I was being rude to them. I totally didn't realize that I was doing it. I didn't mean it in that way at all. But I can't deny that that's how it came off some of the time. I'm sure it must have come off that way some of the time, where it's like, nah, I don't really trust your opinion kind of thing. And it's like, that's not what I meant. But that's what came out. So I had this on my desktop for a long time for those two reasons. It is too important for us as artists to do this. We cannot let ourselves fall into this habit. And how did I realize this? I read this comic. And there was something else. I think I read like a Twitter post or something about it. This was many, many, many years ago. I think just after I finished Animation Mentor. Pigeon wants to win. Yeah, there you go. Pigeons and good vibes. There you go. So it was just something I noticed. And then when I started analyzing my own behavior, I noticed that I was doing the same thing. I was doing exactly that without even realizing and without wanting to be mean. I was. And that's just not right. It's not right to the other people who want to help you. And this goes into another topic, which, what was it again? It was on, I had it just a second ago. We have the accepting compliments, and then I'll think about it in a second. There's another offshoot of this on, oh yes. It is the importance of saying thank you versus sorry. So as a Canadian, my first instinct is to apologize for everything. That's just how I was raised. You always say sorry for everything. And if people think kind of like, oh yeah, it's haha, funny stereotype, Canadians apologize for everything. In Saskatchewan, it is not an apology, like saying sorry is not admissible in court because too many people apologize. Like maybe I'm driving and someone bumps into me and like crashes into me. My first instinct would be, oh, I'm so sorry. And in many places that would mean that I'm the one guilty because I apologized. I'm the one that had the accident, or like I apologized, so it must be my fault. Not in Canada. If you say sorry, it is not admissible in court. It is just something we say. So this is a good image here. Let me switch this out. That's a big problem, is we have this like mentality of we can't be happy when we're working, we have to work more, but we also have to relax more. That's a whole other talk. But let me go over the sorry and the thank you thing. And that's exactly it, Dingy. If we are late, we don't apologize we don't say, sorry, I'm late. We thank you for your patience. We thank the person. What that does is two things, kind of similar again to this image. One is it makes it less self-deprecating. When you say sorry, it's, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Like, it's my fault. Which there are times to apologize, definitely. Apologies are not a bad thing. But if we're apologizing for every little thing, all it does is put us down, and makes us feel negative the whole time. Instead, if you walk into a room and you go, thank you so much for being so patient. I got stuck in traffic, kind of thing. Not only does that not make you out to be the bad guy for a situation that many times you're not in control of, but you give them a positive compliment. Thank you for being such an awesome person. Thank you. You're great. People like that. People like to be thanked. People like to get put up onto a pedestal a little bit. It makes them feel good. So not only are you not putting yourself down, but you are putting them up. That's just two positives instead of a negative. So in general, it's nice to try and thank people for being patient, or thank them for waiting, thank them for whatever it is, versus apologizing every single time. Again, not to say that you shouldn't apologize. That is not a bad thing. But if we do it too often, all it does is puts us down and makes us feel like we're always doing things wrong. That I, as a person, I'm a failure. I can't even do this right. Sorry, I'm doing the, like, again, always apologizing. So that's an important part. Now this part here, this is a very important thing as artists that we have to deal with, is that we always feel like we should be doing more. And then when we do more, we feel like we should be relaxing and enjoying life. And we feel negative about both moments. That doesn't go away. And as you can see from my work schedule, I really have a bad work-life schedule balance a lot of the times, where I have too much work and I don't even sleep, things like that. It's bad. Don't do that. But the important thing here is to realize that, how does the quote go? I forget who exactly said this, and I'm not going to quote it correctly. I think maybe it was a Terry Pratchett quote. Maybe, I don't know. But time wasted doing something that you love is not time wasted. Or something like time wasted doing something you enjoy is not time wasted. That is a very important thing, and it's something I took to heart. Again, I forget who said it. I could Google it. But basically, if you are doing something, and this is the 2017 year that I was talking about before, where I just read Terry Pratchett for the whole year, the Discworld series, that was that quote. John Lennon, that's it. That's who it was. Thank you so much, Peter. Time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time. Exactly. And when I read about that quote, that really stuck with me, because that was my year of 2017. I wasted time. I didn't do the things I should have been doing. I spent a lot of it reading, but it was not wasted because I enjoyed it. It got me out of that funk that I was in, that dark time. It changed my perspective on life in a lot of ways. it was well spent because of that time. There is no end goal here in life. We kind of put it as if this is a race and everyone's racing to it, and if I stop, people are going to get ahead of me and I'm not going to reach the finish line. The thing is, there is no finish line. There is no goal. There is no big thing that you have to reach, no milestone where, for example, at age 30 you have to have kids and a family, and by age 40 you should have this and this and like all of these things figured out. You should have your dream career by like 25, something like that. No, none of that. You do what you do for you and what's best for you at the time. And there is no goal. There is no end solution. If you have to take a break and take a step back and recharge, that is not bad. The only time it's bad, honestly, is when you can't pay the rent. Like that, it's eating and sleeping and all of that stuff, surviving. As long as you can survive, it's not bad to take a break and just recharge, enjoy life, get out of the rat race of trying to get to the 9-to-5 job and all of that stuff. Yeah, exactly. I should be doing this or I should be doing that. It's very dangerous for your mental health. Definitely. It's something that took me a long time to realize, where I always felt like I was always late to everything. Like I didn't go to school soon enough. Like I started animation when I was 24. I should have started when I was 18, fresh out of high school. Like why did I waste so many years? 6 years wasted. When I started doing basically anything like Twitch, why didn't I start sooner? I should have started sooner when Twitch first started. I was doing other things. There were other things in my life. I shouldn't blame myself for that. And as I'm going, if I need to take a break, I shouldn't feel bad about taking a break because I need it. And that's very important. You need to do what's best for you, and for your family and things like that. But especially how do I want to phrase this? Be kind to yourself. Again, this is my general mentality on life, is treat yourself like you would a friend. And it's not to say that like you treat yourself as a third person, but whenever you're about to say something and give yourself advice, like, oh man, maybe I should do an all-nighter and get this project done. What would you tell someone else? You should probably just get some sleep. You're probably going to work better later. That's the advice you'd probably give. So why don't you give yourself that advice? I still don't follow that very well. I still have trouble following that exact advice of like, what would I tell someone else? Because I always make excuses. Oh yeah, no, I'm fine. It's only 5 a.m. I can keep going. Yeah. I lie to myself. See, past me is a jerk. Go back right to that. But that does help, and I've gotten better at it. It's only this last, like starting in January, where things just got really out of hand. There's just too many projects to keep up with, that things have gotten back out of whack. But in 2 or 3 weeks, I'm getting that all rescheduled, and I'm back to hopefully a healthy schedule again. So I have that planned for the future. Unfortunately, I can't do it now because I'm stuck with all of these deadlines that can't be changed. So that's on me, bad scheduling. But I have plans in the future to change it, and relatively soon. So, yay. And self-care is something I learned more once I truly realized that other people were worried about me. Exactly. Same here. A lot of times you think that this kind of, oh, I'm just gonna push myself and burn myself out and do all of this, it's only gonna hurt me. No, it hurts everyone around you. It hurts your friends who can't do anything to help, but they want to. It hurts your family who have to see you go through that. And again, they can't do anything to help. It hurts people. So try not to do that. It doesn't mean that we have to live our lives for others. This is another big thing where, let's say your family doesn't want you to be an animator. They want you to be a lawyer or a doctor, a good profession, a proper profession. No, if you want to be an animator, you get to choose what you want to do in life. You get to live your life and what's going to make you happy. With that said, if we're doing little things that we don't necessarily need to do I need to do an all-nighter? Do I need to do this? But it's hurting people to watch me suffer as I'm doing that and watch me hurt myself, essentially? No, I don't need to. And why should I hurt them just to get a little bit of extra work done? So, yeah. Very, very important to watch out for. Let's see. You just had this feeling. Having 2 projects, sleeping from 1 to 6 hours per day, would never do that again. Money isn't worth it. Yeah, it's bad. And it's not even about the money. That's the thing. It's just different projects that came up and I scheduled them improperly and they all started at the same time. So it's just mismanagement on my part more than anything. But hopefully everything will be managed soon. You can't fail at what you don't love, so you might as well do what you love. Exactly. Or sorry, you can fail at what you don't love. Exactly. So if you don't love something, you can still fail and not achieve it. So might as well try the thing that you will love. And if you fail it, well, at least you tried. If you don't try, it's technically failing already. So might as well give it a try. You never know. Yeah, I think that was that Jim Carrey's dad. Yeah, he said that at a graduation, I think, was, if I remember correctly. Let's see. I'm learning animation on my own, and I have a problem. I can't figure out if I'm really trying or just messing around. It always confuses me. That's tough. When you're learning on your own for anything, it's very hard because you don't know what you're doing right or wrong. So the biggest thing you can do is do small, simple exercises first. So I'm going to use this as a drawing example here, just because it's easier. But if you do a complex drawing, so I'm not going to do a complex drawing because I'm not good at doing complex drawings, but if I try to do a full face here, so I'm trying to get a full character in here, add some hair. So I'm trying to do a full thing, and then I'm gonna go in there and start coloring the character and add like some skin tone in here. Okay, this is horrible. Let's add some shadows to them. And I'm doing the whole process. I'm going to color it, all of this stuff. It doesn't turn out. What did I do wrong? Was it the shading? Was it the coloring? Was it the sketch? Which part of this failed? I don't know, because I've done so much that it could be a little bit of everything. And when you're first starting out, this is where a lot of people hit that hurdle of what do I do to get better? So do some simple tests first. Okay. For example, drawing, and this would be kind of animation, start with a ball, a bouncing ball. If you're drawing, draw some spheres. Learn how to draw a sphere and draw a circle. And as you can see, I'm out of practice here. My hand isn't used to drawing a nice clean circle. But as I do more and more, you can see that they're getting better. Not great. Oh, that was pretty good. But better. So I start with that. I'm using a tablet. I'm used to using my Cintiq more now for drawing. So when I try to draw on the tablet, it's always a little weird. There you go. See, look at that. Now I just had to reposition my hand. So that was the thing. My hand was actually out of position. I just moved my chair and look at the circles now. They're not perfect, but I'm not getting this weird like section right here. Now it's connecting more clearly right there in those sections. So you do that. Okay, let's do more simple exercises. And in animation, that could be just these very basic ball bouncing against a wall, ball bouncing down some stairs. Okay, maybe you do a pendulum assignment. You do these simple things. And because you're focusing on one simple idea and concept, that is very easy to determine what went wrong. What did I do wrong? Then once you know that, okay, now I've got it. Now it's looking right. You add something else. Now the next ball bounce you do, you add some squash and stretch. You build that in to it. And you just build and build and build on top of that. That's what's going to get you to learn. It feels like you're slow because, man, I just want to learn animation. I want to do the cool stuff. I want to do the acting and the lip sync and the action scenes and a fight scene with camera moves and all of that. But none of that is going to matter if you don't know how to do the basics. Just like I want to draw, I want to do like realistic skin texturing, and I want to draw all the hairs, and I want to do all of this really cool like shading and lighting with 3-point perspective and super deep, like just awesome shot. But if I don't know how to draw a circle and I can't even control my pen correctly, how am I even going to achieve that? So start small. What's going to end up happening is when you know that you've achieved this thing, so I know I can draw a circle, I know I can do a bouncing ball, I know I can add squash and stretch. You keep building and building and building. Now you know you have that core, and you'll go to the next step and you'll fail at that. But you'll know why you're failing, because you're failing at the new thing that you added in. And over time, you're going to end up getting faster results, and you're going to learn much faster and get further along more quickly by doing that than just doing a big complex animation. So that's the big thing, is don't focus on getting everything in at once. If you're learning on your own, you have to be your own judge. You have to be the one that determines what's working and what's not. And the easiest way to do that is to not go overboard with things. The moment you do, suddenly you cannot tell what needs to be done and what isn't, like what's not working, what is, what you should do. So hopefully that helps. See, I was told once that the only way you can absolutely never accomplish your goal is if you never even attempt to achieve it in the first place. Yes, exactly. That is a great way of putting it. Let's see. I found out in college that the more I stress out about something, the more likely I will overstudy and won't have time for art and hate myself. So I find that if I do things when I think about it and have the time for it, that I won't have to wait to do the assignment just to find it overdue or past due. Yeah. So you just want to not put things off. Again, that goes to the past self stuff. Does the 51 weeks of animation help? The 51 animation exercises? Yeah. From Animator Island, that helps. It gives you a starting point. So yeah, hopefully all of that helps. But let's go through here. That was a really wide tangent, but hopefully that was a good one. Hopefully it was helpful for people. Mental health is definitely something worth taking seriously. We make a lot of jokes about mental health, like just as animators. It's like, oh, we're crazy, we're all just a bunch of kooks who work all night and drink too much coffee, and like, oh, we make jokes and all of this stuff. But it is something that we have to be very serious about in terms of just watching our health and making sure that we are not hurting ourselves by doing this thing that we love. I want to be able to animate until I'm old and gray, which technically I'm getting a lot of gray already, and I'm already kind of old, so hey, I've already achieved my dream, haha. But I want to be able to do this until the day I die. So I need to be healthy about it. I cannot work in a way and live in a way that I'm going to suffer through all the time. Mental health, very important, and just health in general. We want to take care of ourselves, because not only when we're taking care of ourselves, we're not just taking care of ourselves for ourselves, it's for everyone else too. All of our family and loved ones, they don't want to see us suffer just like we wouldn't want to see them suffer. So it's very important. If you don't do it for yourself, do it for them. I feel like I want this punch to be a little stronger. So I'm going to just pull this back here. Just a little bit more. So this is where I'm exaggerating the reference. You can see in the reference there's not a huge change. I want that big change. I want that to snap out. If you're old, then I'm old and I'm freaking gorgeous and spry. See, that's the difference. You're gorgeous and spry. I'm old and creaky. I've got gray hairs. I can barely move. I'm going to have trouble getting out of a chair. My joints are all going to crack. Luckily, I'm not that bad. Here, I'm starting to get a little bit of a S shape in the spine, but that's not too bad because it's a quick in-between. I kind of want to move the head down though a little bit. It feels like it's a little too spliny there. Yeah, exactly. Work smart, not hard. I have gray hair. I've had gray hair, or Cameron and I have had gray hair since we were 14. So gray hair doesn't affect us. Oh, sure, we've got a little bit more than we used to, but it's not like, oh my God, I hit my 30s. There's my first gray hair. No, I'm old now. It's like, we had this when we were 14 years old. What's the difference? We've always had gray hair ever since our teens. So, doesn't mean much. You fire, Vogue, strike a pose. Oh, yes. Get those really good poses in there. I need the flashing lights. Ah, yeah. I had an uncle who actually went full gray, like white hair when he was 16. So I think it's just genetics. Cameron and I are lucky that didn't happen to us. So, yay. Okay. So I'm looking at the hand here, and I feel like I'm not getting as much twist as I want right here in the hand, so I'm just going to exaggerate a little bit. I'm gonna just take the hand and kind of straighten that here so we can feel a little bit more of the bend there. So we kind of feel that twist and bend of the wrist, the torque. And then here, I can add a little drag here. You don't want to bend the wrist this way, like that. That'll break the wrist. But if I can get the line of the hand here to be straight, so right now it's kind of bent here. If I push it to be straight, that'll drag that wrist a little bit, just enough. And then once this hits, when we add more breakdowns, I can add a little like, doop, to add a little overshoot there. I've actually wanted to dye my hair white or gray, just because I think it's really cool. I think it's a cool look. I don't know why people don't like it, or like I totally understand wanting to dye your hair just to kind of keep it the same color, all of that. But there are some people, like I have family, the older generations, who like just think you can't have gray hair, especially women. Women can't have gray hair, and it's like, oh, why? It looks cool. Like I don't get it. It's just that old mentality. And like, to me, it's just really awesome. And when we had our hair dyed orange on the top, they had to bleach our hair first, so it went white. I really like that. We looked like a skunk because it was just a white strip on the top. But it's like, man, I kind of would like to see what I'd look like with just pure white hair, or at least like white streaks through it or something. I think that would be really cool. Yeah, it's just whatever color hair you want, it's whatever makes you happy. If you're happy with that hair color, if you're happy with how you look, and you look in the mirror and it's like, man, it makes your day to see yourself like that, do it. It's your life. No one else should dictate how you should look. If you're happy in like sweatpants and just like a ratty t-shirt and that makes your day and you're just like, yeah, I'm comfy, do it. If you prefer to work in a suit or like get dressed for the day, that's on you. Like for example, I started wearing more shirts. I used to just wear t-shirts. Now I'm wearing more shirts, mostly because it's cold in my office. It's always cold, so I use this to bundle up. But I've started kind of just enjoying wearing this just day to day now because I don't know, it just feels comfy. So do you enjoy your life? Do the things that you want to do. White hair has a different structure, so it's kind of like handling glass noodles sometimes. Yeah, but white hair with life. Let's see. Do you think good motto? Make something every day that you can brag about, something you could talk about. Yes and no. I like it in the sense that it in life you do want to do something every day. Like you don't want you to waste your life, and if you're just kind of sitting there doing absolutely nothing and not enjoying it, that's not a bad thing. The problem though is that you don't want to push the stress of yourself that you need to do something worth talking about every day. There are lots of days where I don't do anything that's worth talking about at all. I barely got out of bed. I ate like ramen noodles and didn't make myself anything healthy. It's like terrible. I maybe just watch TV all day. There are days like that where you do absolutely nothing. Or like for me in 2017, reading Discworld. There are times like that things like that will happen. And that's okay too. You can just live your life and do something that's just for you, that you don't have to talk about and you don't have to brag about, or like, I use the term brag, that's not really the right term, but that you don't have to put pressure on yourself to do. You do what works best for you at that time. So that's the way I kind of approach things, is don't put yourself under these pressures of constantly having to perform and do great. It's the same thing like with social media nowadays. Like artists on social media, every post you have to post once a day to keep the algorithm happy. You have to beat your numbers every single time so that you're constantly getting better. You have to beat those numbers, and that's just not healthy, because you're not always going to beat those numbers. There are going to be days where you don't do a bunch of work, and to expect that of yourself all the time is just not good. So I try to just kind of approach life in a way that I don't have to do something great as long as I did what I wanted and it made me happy. Or it made someone else happy. If I could help someone along the way, then I'm good. I'm just watching the arc from this view. There was a weird wobble. So, let's see. Can you show us how it looks outside your house? I remember telling it's all open fields. I don't have a exact picture of outside my house, and I can't move my camera to show. But do I have it here? Let me see if I can find this. This is not going to be incriminating in any way, so, or I shouldn't say incriminating. You're not going to be able to guess where I live, is what I'm saying from this. So it's safe to show. Not that I'm too worried. Everyone suddenly shows up at my house. But this was, in order to get internet, we had to build a tower. Because we live way out in the country, and where we are, there's a lot of fields, or near where we are, there's a lot of fields. It's very flat. To the north of us is all trees. So this was a picture of Cameron and I working on the tower and building it. This was, I forget when now. What year was that? So that's where we live. I think we have another one here. Yeah, so here you can see a little bit higher. So see that? Trees and trees and trees. That's it. So yeah. Who took the picture? Our dad has a drone. So we got our dad a drone on one of his birthdays. So he used that to take a picture. The harness with only one clip. Well, it's two clips. There's a clip here and clip here, and then this one has, I believe, two clips as well. Does that one have two clips? This one though, this one's not a great harness because this is an old climbing belt that does not meet regulations. It's our dad's old climbing belt. Is literally a belt. If you fell with this any distance, your back would take it. The other one is actually a harness, a proper harness. Let's see, what region of Canada are you in? I'm in Manitoba, so in the center, which is very nice, but there's no animation studios really, so it's a little hard to find work other than freelance stuff. But yeah, it's very nice. I love country, so like it's just forest, which is really nice. I love that. Let's see. Yeah, so it's I really enjoy it. I like the quiet. I was annoyed when I had to upgrade a cable to get internet. Yeah, so this was the old tower, which was a rickety old thing. And that's the old antenna for our internet. And you can see how much higher we are now. And this is not the top. And then there's like a 6-foot or a 10-foot pole, or like a antenna on top of the tower. So it's a total of like 70 feet or something like that. It's not super huge, but it was fun to build. Let's see. This was when it was about halfway up. About halfway. So getting there. Getting over the trees at that point. So yeah, there's our, do we get visits from the wilds? Yes. We get deer all the time. Just a few days ago, or last week, 2 weeks ago. Wow, I guess it was 2 weeks ago. We had 5 deer in our yard. And one of them came right up to the window, like literally like at the window. Our windows are pretty high, so we were looking down at it and you could just like look straight down at it. It was so cute and fluffy. It was adorable. But they come through. A lot of times they just sleep in the backyard. So yeah, 5 deer. Usually there's like a family of 3 that always wanders through, but there were 2 families that came through. We have bears, raccoons. There's a cougar around the area somewhere. So there's a lot of wildlife. We don't usually get to see it because they tend to stay away from the house, but it is fun to kind of see them every once in a while. I would love to set up a camera outside just to see what animals are actually wandering around when we're not there. I know there's elk nearby. We have a bison farm, so there's actually bison nearby, which is really cool. We've always grown up seeing bison, which I love them. What else? Lots of coyotes. There are some wolves in the area, but not too many. When we were working at the bakery, there were more wolves there, and we actually saw a wolf walk right by the bakery one day. We just went out one night, we were baking, early in the morning, and the wolf just walked right by, and it's like, oh, that's a dog. No, that's way too big for a dog. And it was really cool. It was the first time we'd seen a wolf like in nature like that. We've seen some wolf pups. Before that, someone found some wolf pups alone, so they brought them to bring them to a zoo so that they can be rescued. I think the mother had been hit by a car or something, which was sad. But yeah, those wolf pups were really cute. Yeah, lots of wilderness. Okay, so we've got that breakdown. Let's actually, I think for now we'll call the breakdowns done, because I technically need to do more, but I'm already an hour over where I wanted to go because of my other work, but I'm having fun. We've been having a lot of good conversations today, which I'm really happy about. I love it when we get into these like deep conversations about random stuff. Especially because it's stuff that, at least for me, I'm very passionate about. It's stuff that I've gone through, and I hope other people don't have to go through it. And if they do, that hopefully something that we cover here is going to make it a little easier to go through. Oh yeah, foxes. There's definitely foxes here too. There's a lot more foxes near our uncle's place. I remember whenever we would go visit him, there'd be a family of foxes that we would always see like right near his house. They were so cute. Let's see. So let's take a look at what we've got. Now, the thing is, a lot of this might not work. Like, we just put in breakdowns. Until we actually see it in motion, it's hard to say how exactly a breakdown will feel. That's totally fine. As long as we thought things out, we can always make adjustments as we go. So let's look at what we had before. So this was what we had before. We're missing kind of the information of how does the character get from that down pose into the first punch over here. So hopefully we filled that in. There we go. So it's not much, but you feel how he comes up and there's this kind of snap upwards. One thing I'm feeling is you definitely feel like that one pose right here that we're missing. Right here. Because we're going on ones, and then right here we're going on twos, and then 4 and 4. You feel that. You feel that pause, and it kind of creates a weird hitch to it. Which is not bad. It just means we need to break it down a little bit more. This is Keyframe Pro. If you're interested in animation, get this program. It's free. There is a paid version. There you go. There's the info for it. It's great. It's basically an animation program made for animators. So there we go. We're starting to get this much more dynamic feeling. The punch is feeling much stronger. If we compare this, let's see, can I do this here? It's not going to be perfectly in sync because the camera view changed. I always forget how to do this every time. Okay, there we go. So we've got our two animations. Now, again, camera angle changed, but we get this difference here. So if you look, bottom is the splines, just straight splines without any breakdowns. And if we look at the beginning, let's actually kind of focus just on this moment here. So before the extra punches. So right up until this point, and there we go. So if we look at this, you can feel the difference. How in the spline version, the character just goes down, then up and over. It's just boring. With the new one, you get a little pause at the bottom. He comes down, hits, holds, and then he stands up. As he comes down, there's an arc to it. So right here, you can see, look at the difference. How in the bottom version, everything's moving together. Head's going down, arms moving up, legs going up. Everything's crunching down at the same time. Whereas this one here, you feel the shoulders move first. The head is actually moving up and then down. As the head is moving down, the chest is still moving up. There's this contrast. As it comes down right here, look at that difference between these two poses. Where on the top one, you really feel it like in the stomach. The stomach is the thing that's crunching in. You feel the abs just going and punching in. If you could see like that, if he was like really ripped and you'd see that six pack, you'd see the muscles just crunch in. Whereas the other one is just like bleh, a noodle, a wet bleh, just floating down. That's not interesting. You feel that knee kicking up right here. Look at the elbows, that difference in the elbows right here. The top one is just slowly going, sorry, the bottom one is slowly going down. The top one, you feel that hit. And right there, that little shake, as you feel that impact, and the arms hit at different times. Whereas the other one, everything hits in and out at the same time. That is the power of breakdowns. And Sammy boy, you're exactly right. We are getting overshoots and anticipation in everything already. So we're seeing it mostly in the arms, but we're building that in throughout everything right now, which means that as we're going to go into splines later, we're going to have all of that built out, which is great. So at this point, it's just adding a little bit more. Now, as he comes up here, you notice how the hips in the other one, they just kind of start sliding to the screen, right, on the spline version. Whereas on the top version, the hips kind of go up first and then over. I could probably push it so there's a little bit more of an arc, but what that creates is a little bit of a stand before whoop, he goes and pushes that punch back right there. And the punch, look at the other one. Look at the arc of the hand. It goes up this way, which is a very weak punch. You can just try this yourself. Try to punch forward and arc this way. So you're not trying to do an uppercut. You're not going up like this. You're punching forward, but you're arcing down. And just move your arm like this. Feel how weak that is as you arc upwards, but do it the other way. Up and then down. Feel how much stronger that is. How if you go up first and then down, it's interesting, it's dynamic, it's powerful. We're building that in now. So up, slam, versus just the motion. The other arm, we're starting to get this arc. We haven't gotten to it yet, but you can see how that back hand is starting to arc around and down for that next punch. So it's anticipating the punch, whereas the other one, it just kind of comes back and then forward. So back, forward. Not that good. Not that interesting. So this is the power of breakdowns. This is what's going to make your shot really interesting and take it out of that pose to pose feeling. And the more breakdowns you add, the less work you have to do in splines. Now, you don't want to go crazy with your breakdowns to the point where you're keying every single frame when you don't have to. But as long as you're going through here, and like what I'm doing is I'm just looking, does this section read? Do I have enough information like here to here? In this case, yeah, the arms are kind of going up, but everything else is kind of already moving. That's not so bad. But then from here to here, I definitely feel like I need another breakdown. Something in here is not reading correctly. Something is... I want to push the lead and follow. So for example, we have one arm that's going this way, one arm that's going this way, the knee is coming up, everything's kind of moving all together. And I want to break that up. Is the knee starting to move first? Is the elbow here coming back before he punches? Which I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be this arm and then the punch versus the punch, then the arm. That'll weaken the punch. So I'm going to push all of that as we put more breakdowns. Here, this is just a hold. I don't need more breakdowns here. Like this, I can worry about that in splines. I could add a breakdown, but it's not going to add that much. So you're just going through and putting in your breakdowns where you need that information. So yeah, and we'll probably continue this maybe in the next stream. We'll see. It depends on if we have any other demos that anyone else wants, but hopefully this was helpful.